Morning and welcome to the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. We'll begin this morning by taking attendance, and I'll ask our General Counsel, Mark Silverman, to call the roll. Here.
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 Yeah.
Here.
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 Right, good morning again, and welcome to our public hearing and public meeting of April 1st, 2025. This meeting is being held in person at our hearing room at the on the ninth floor at 1 Center Street, and is also being held via Zoom and live streamed on our YouTube channel. And I will announce now that this is the last hearing in the hearing room at 1 Center Street. We will be moving to our new offices, and our new hearing room will be on the second floor of 253 Broadway. There is security, so any members of the public who wish to attend should come with ID to get through security, and you may take the elevator or the stairs up to our second floor hearing room. And today we have a public meeting agenda as well as a public hearing agenda. Today we will be reviewing an application that has already had a public hearing and is back today with revisions in response to comments made at the public hearing. And we'll also be reviewing a public meeting item that is an amendment to a prior certificate of appropriateness. And then we'll move to our public hearing agenda to review new applications for work on designated properties. And with that, I will turn it over to Corey Harala, our Director of Preservation.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Start today's Preservation Department agenda with public meeting item number 1, LPC 25-01478, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 796, Lot 7504, 655 to 671 6th Avenue, aka 101 to 127 West 20th Street and 100 West 21st Street in the Ladies Mile Historic District. This is a neo-Greek style department store building designed by Mortimer C. Merritt and built in stages between 1887 and 1895. The application is to establish a master plan governing the installation of signage. This was last presented at the public hearing on December 10th, 2024. No action was taken at that time. The applicant will present revisions to the proposal in response to your comments after we open the proceedings.
All right, we'll do that right now. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, you may begin.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair Carroll. I am Robert Bianco, PKSB Architects, representing the owners of 655 6th Avenue Retail Condominium. We are returning today with a revision to the signage portion of the approved storefront master plan at this address. This is the Hugh O'Neill Building in the Ladies Mile Historic District. The current master plan approval includes one type of signage across the entire facade, and that can be seen in the image on the left-hand side. The signs that are approved under the master plan include internally illuminated sign boxes with 10-inch maximum high letters sitting behind the glass at every transom window. And those are approved at 18 inches behind the glass at typical transom bays, as seen in this photo, and 6 inches behind the glass at the projecting corner bays, which you'll see in elevation. We had come forward in December with a proposal to modify the signage to address visibility issues that the tenants have been having over the last decade, trying to work with this master plan. Our proposal at the public hearing included actually a reduction in the number of signs at the transom, but we were relocating those to the exterior outside of the glass. And those signs were proposed as 24-inch maximum high halo lit letters with a solid background mounted to rails in front of the glass. We were also proposing one internally illuminated sign per store at the display window at the lower window area. And we were also including a provision for some vinyl applied signage at the storefront entry doors. The current approval doesn't really address vinyl applied signage, and the retailers really need to be able to, at least at minimum, just display their logo and their store hours on the doors. The feedback that we received from you in December was that the exterior signage was just too large. We were asked to reduce the lettering, the height of the lettering. We were asked to eliminate the background to allow for more transparency into the store. And we were also asked to rethink the overall configuration and location of signs to allow for more, or to provide more uniformity across the facade. So what we are returning with today largely maintains most of the signs in their approved locations. We are just asking to relocate signs at the entry bays from the interior to the exterior. This sign type would be maximum 18-inch high metal cutout letters attached to rails sitting in front of the glass. And that sign would receive a slimline LED cove light at the top to provide indirect illumination of the lettering. All of the other signage at the transom level would stay in its current approved location. We are just asking that the lettering be allowed to be increased from 10 inches to 18 inches for better visibility. And we are maintaining the provision for the vinyl applied signage at the doors. And I know we have limited time. I'll go very quickly through the elevations. This is an existing photo of the 6th Avenue elevation with our storefront master plan implemented across the facade. And you can see some of the tenants have installed the signage behind the glass. And while it looks very good in elevation, when you're on the sidewalk on the west side of 6th Avenue, walking up and down, the visibility and the wayfinding is challenging for the retailers, especially at the bays where entry doors are already recessed from the display window, and then the approved signage is even further back, further into the store and away from the sidewalk. And existing photos at the side streets. And I will make a note that there was a question at the public hearing about whether or not stores could be combined, subdivided, and would that necessitate moving doors or adding doors. We reviewed this plan. This is the current leasing plan, subdivision plan for the retail spaces. We looked at this with the landlords and they are very happy with it. Having the two larger anchor stores at the corners and the smaller stores mid-block works really well for them. So there is no intention to subdivide or reconfigure in a way that would require new doors. So the exterior signage that you'll see in the elevation will be the maximum proposed under the master plan. This is the 6th Avenue facade with the current approval with signage in every transom bay, 10-inch maximum lettering behind the glass. This is what we had proposed at the December public hearing with large 24-inch high letters every other transom bay and one illuminated sign per store at the display window. And what we are returning with today, largely maintaining all of the signage in its approved location and just relocating signs above doors to the exterior, mounted to rails, and then the applied vinyl signage at the doors. And enlarged elevations at 6th Avenue, showing what we proposed in December, and then the revision. Same for the side streets, existing, current master plan, what we proposed in December, and the revised. This is a typical storefront bay along 6th Avenue, showing the 3 sign types. And again, the current master plan, which has its visibility issues, what we proposed in December and what we're returning with today. And there are details, if anyone has questions about dimensions or attachment, but I'll end on the proposed rendering.
All right,
Thank
thank you very much. Any questions, commissioners? All right, Commissioner Lutfi, and then we'll hop over to the side of the table.
Increasing the size, and I'm just wondering why they're all uppercase now instead of upper and lowercase.
It's difficult to anticipate what the logo would be. I think we were just trying to show
It's just a
the
placeholder.
maximum in this condition, in this
Mhm.
rendering.
Okay, thank you.
So you're not ruling out. up or
No,
lower.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
It's a, it's sort of a placeholder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So my question has nothing to do with your proposal. What was the original department store? Remind us. Do you know?
No, I
Okay,
don't
well,
It was the
recall.
Hugh O'Neill building.
It was the Hugh O'Neill building, and I'm pretty sure that the ground floor was always separate retail stores. Is that correct?
James, you might know the history of the building.
I
Okay.
believe that the department store was the upper floors, and that there was always. I
Okay.
think that based on the historic photos, it looks like the ground floor were always separate retailers, or at least from early on.
Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, if you could just return to the street view of the current signage. I just wanted to ask whether Jennifer or furniture was the size or between the two sizes that you're proposing.
Yeah, the existing photos are a little misleading because the tenants have not fully followed the master plan. Just Salad is the approved height. The Jennifer furniture that's the approved height of the box itself. I think the letters that we're showing would be a little bit shorter, probably closer to where it says furniture. The
So-
Jennifer looks big. The furniture is
But
a
the
little
Jennifer
shorter.
may be comparable to what you're proposing with 18 inches.
I think actually the
furniture, maybe?
furniture it
Furniture,
looks
so-
the
I
right
think
size.
So, yeah,
The
that's what
furniture
I
looks
was
the right-
asking, that,
Yep.
which one was closest to the height that you were looking for. So you just get a sense at the street level as opposed to, the back, obviously building. Okay, thank you.
They're gone now, by the way. Jennifer convertibles.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Chu.
You had mentioned that the signage that's behind the glass would be in a more transparent backing. We were talking about transparency.
It's at the entry doors. So,
Only at the entry door.
correct, yeah,
the other
we-
ones not.
right. So the ones behind the glass are what the current master plan allows for. And so they are solid back with, under the current master plan, 10-inch high letters. They're proposing 18-inch high letters.
But what's
At the
solid?
entry doors, they're proposing to bring the sign in front of the
Front.
glass. And last time they showed it with the panel, and we asked them to not do a panel, so it would be more transparent. So they're doing it on a channel now.
So this represents what? Okay,
Yeah.
and that's an 18-inch letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
Correct. Yeah, and just to clarify, if there are 2 lines of signage, the total would still be 18 inches. And we show that in the
Oh,
details.
Right. Okay, any other questions? All right, let's close the hearing and begin our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to
So
close? the-
moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed, and last time this was presented, they showed the existing master plan, which is all signs on these backer panels behind the display windows, and there are visibility issues, and probably the reason Jennifer Furniture also installed their sign in non-compliance is that they've had challenges with the current master plan. So they're proposing to bring some signage to the exterior. And the last time we saw it, we asked them to reduce the size of the 24-inch high letters, eliminate the backer, and to reconsider the sort of overall cumulative effect of the signs they had in the windows and then the signs in the transoms. So they have revised the proposal to retain the signs on the interior at the display windows with 18-inch high letters, and then to do the back, the letters on the channels at the entry doors, and graphics on the windows only at the entry doors. And the letters would be 18 inches high, which is comparable to the size of the letters that we approve at staff level in other cases. So that is a sort of a standard height. Okay, Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to start this one?
I want to thank the applicant for hearing us and coming back so quickly. And I think this is much better. And I hope that it serves the purpose. It's much cleaner and it works very well with the building.
Commissioner Chu?
Yeah, I was gonna say that personally, I would have preferred if the lettering behind the glass were a smaller font. I feel it a bit repetitive to be the same scale on all of them, but I can approve this. I think that it's at least very rational and clean, and it looks like it makes sense on the facade.
Okay, Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I think the applicant did a very good job, and it makes sense that you'd want the signage out in front so that it's more visible. I can find this appropriate.
Commissioner Goldblum?
Me too.
And Commissioner Ginsburg?
Agreed.
Commissioner
Agreed.
Commissioner Chapin, okay. We'll make the motion then. Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure.
Lutfi.
In the matter of docket 25-01478, 655 / -671 Sixth Avenue, AKA 101-127 West 20th Street and 100 West 21st Street, Ladies Mile Historic District. A neo-Greek style department store building designed by Mortimer C. Merritt and built in stages between 1887 and 1895. The application is to establish a master plan governing the installation of signage. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Ladies Mile Historic District. I further note that a storefront and signage master plan was established under Certificate of Appropriateness 08-9122 LPC 07-6747 and miscellaneous amendments 10-6062 LPC 10-4361, miscellaneous 11-1719, LPC 11-1275, miscellaneous 12-2715. Thank you so much. And respectively, for illuminated signage behind the glass that the storefront master plan has not yet been fully implemented and that the proposed master plan would supersede the previous approval. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed master plan will supersede the previous master plan and require the removal of existing previously approved signs, thereby preventing excessive and redundant signage, that the proposal is limited to 3 different signage options consisting of dimensional metal lettering, mounted arm rails in front of the entry transoms with projecting down lit fixtures, internally illuminated sign boxes at non-entry transoms, setback 6 inches behind the glass at corner bays and setback 18 inches elsewhere, and vinyl decal signage on the glazing surface of retail entry doors will be in keeping with the variety of illuminated and non-illuminated signs found throughout the historic district. That the proposed transom signage and overhead light fixtures mounted on rails will be installed on channel mounts that connect to the non-historic metal transom window frames without damaging the historic cast iron, and the interior sign boxes will be located behind the glass, and that neither will reduce the overall transparency at the storefronts. That the implementation of a signage master plan will organize and make consistent the various signage throughout the building's commercial base over time, that the cumulative amount of signage will not overwhelm this large block-wide building, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Ladies Mile Historic District.
Thank you. And Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Mark?
Commissioner Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland, Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu, Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 9 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public meeting item number 2, LPC 25-03831. This is an application for a miscellaneous amendment in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1507, Lot 4, 1143 Fifth Avenue in the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. This is a neo-federal style apartment building designed by J.E.R. Carpenter and built in 1922 to 23. The application is to amend Certificate of Appropriateness 19-6500 to address as-built conditions.
All right. And
The
what-
applicant will present the
Okay.
proposal after we open the proceedings.
Great, thanks. Commissioner Chen, would you make a motion to open the proceedings? Thank you. Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, you may begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sarah Murray. I'm with Dominic Pilla Associates, here this morning to present the application for 1143 Fifth Avenue. Just a little bit of background on the existing site. So this is a relatively narrow lot on the east side of Fifth Avenue, located between 95th and 96th Street. The building is located within the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. A couple of historic photos here, so you can see our building is in the middle. It's an existing 7-story building, which is nestled between 2 much larger buildings to the north and the south, which are 13 and 14 stories. We were previously seen in front of the commission back in 2016 for an alteration 1 application on the building. The scope of the work included the removal of an existing 1-story non-historic penthouse at the 7th floor of the building, and the reconstruction of a new 2-story penthouse with bulkheads. So you can see some photos here. The far left is the original pre-construction photo where you see the top of that non-historic penthouse. And then the next image to the right is the approved rendering, which was approved by the commission, and same with the 2 following images to the right. A couple of more images of that existing penthouse. You can see that this was the original penthouse was set back from the main facade, and the new penthouse, which was previously approved, matched that existing setback. So this building is currently fully completed. There are a number of small changes which were made, which we are now seeking the commission's approval on. So I'll just go through these quickly and we'll go through more detail in the subsequent slides. So the first item is the 7th and 8th floor penthouse windows and doors. The finish colors of these in the originally approved application were an off-white, and the installed windows have a black frame. The second item, there are a couple of window guards at the 8th floor windows. They're safety guards. The original application indicated that these were to be metal pickets. And as installed, they are a glass safety railing. The third item is related to the glass guardrail, which is at the main roof. The configuration of this changed slightly from the original application. The installed guardrail is frameless with a metal shoe at the base, and the overall position and height of that guardrail changed slightly from the originally approved design. And then the last item is the upper windows at the penthouse facade. These were originally proposed to be right at the elevation of the finished floor, and they were raised roughly 12 inches from that level. So they're about a foot higher than the originally approved, but the size of these windows remain the same. So we have three elevations here. To the far left is the elevation which was originally approved by the commission. In the middle, you'll see the elevation which was approved at staff level most recently. And to the far right is the as-built condition. So you can see in the far left image, we have the metal picket railing on those upper windows here. And on the far right, you'll see the glass railing which replaced it. You'll also notice that the height of these windows was raised, again, as I mentioned, about 12 inches higher than the original application where they were at the floor level of the topmost floor. So here's a couple of images of the installed glass railing at the main roof. So as you can notice in the image, there is a small planter which was installed adjacent to the railing, which necessitated the height of the railing being increased slightly, which you'll see in more detail in the subsequent slide. So here you can see just a comparative section of the originally approved railing versus what was installed. So that railing moved about 7 inches closer than the originally approved railing, and the height of it also increased roughly 7 inches. Here are a couple images of the completed penthouse facade. So you see the black frame on the installed windows. You can also see the glass railing on the upper floor. And not as obvious here, but there was that 12-inch increase in the height of the sill for those upper story windows. Just a couple of images here in the next couple of slides, just to provide some context in terms of the coloring of the facade with a darker window in this image. And then here we have some completed photos of the views from Fifth Avenue itself. So the penthouse is only minimally visible from Fifth Avenue. As you can see, you can kind of see the upper half of that penthouse facade, the upper portion of those windows. The glass railing, the safety railing on those windows is not visible from Fifth Avenue. However, it is visible from the park itself. So we have included some images here taken during the winter months when this is most visible. A close-up image in the middle here where you can see that glass railing on the upper story windows, and also not very visible, but just to mention, we have that glass railing on the main roof here as well. These are just a couple of additional images for context. So obviously, as I mentioned, it's only minimally visible from Fifth Avenue and from the park, only visible really during the winter months when there's not foliage blocking. So I'll end here with a couple of renderings with side-by-side comparison. So on the far left here is the originally approved rendering of that penthouse addition. To the right, the as-built condition, photograph taken during the winter months. And then the same thing straight on from the park, the approved rendering in the middle here. And then on the far right, the as-built condition. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, unless I missed it, but what, how did we end up with this situation? It's, it's sort of replacing one railing with commission and say, we would like to do something different.
The question is, how did it happen without coming back to the commission before you did the work?
I can't say I wasn't aware of the issue until after it had been installed. So obviously we're aware of the procedure and we wish that it had happened sooner, but this is where we are.
All right. Okay. And yes, please come up and just speak into the mic and state your name before you speak.
Hi, I'm Stephen Galera. I've been in the construction industry for 3 decades in New York City. Most of my projects have been in historic districts, so I'm aware of the process. I represent the owner and have been part of the construction process from day one. The glass railings, so there were more than one iteration on the drawings, actually. One showed glass railings, one showed spigots, and just as Sarah mentioned, they were aesthetically unappealing for the owner. And we looked at one drawing and looked at the other drawing, and we were given 2 different information and just kept proceeding. It was a very difficult job. The glass railings were not high on the list as far as being paid attention to. And that's how it happened.
All right, Commissioner Ginsburg.
I have a few questions. You answered the glass railings, but
Sure.
what about the window color and the change in the parapet?
Okay, so it's not a change in the parapet, it's the height of the glass railing on the roof. We have a planter in front of it, and it was decided code-wise that maybe we should take the height of the railing as if we were
But
standing.
you're not
in the dirt.
answering my question.
Okay.
My question is, why was this done without first coming to the commission? Or at least to the staff and saying, we want to make these changes?
You know what, to be honest with you, we didn't perceive them as changes. We looked at the code, said, okay, the railing has to be so high. Should we make it from the finished
but
floor? Or
if
should we
you-
make it from the planter? And I can appreciate what you're saying, right?
But-
But we weren't the architect. Maybe if Sarah was involved, we should have, in fact,
So,
done
but-
that. But
but-
we looked at the code and I dealt with building inspectors. And I felt like I had to pass the inspection, so I should.
Right, but if you've been working on landmark buildings for 20 years, you should have
30.
known, okay, 30, you should have known to come to us. I have another question
Yeah.
because it sounds like the owner decided to make changes and it was,
Okay,
on page 9, the parapet detail, in addition to the changing of the railing and adding the planter, the original parapet was wrapped in insulation to prevent a thermal break. The proposed or the as-built parapet lost that thermal insulation. Why was that done?
Can I just jump in really quick? So this section that's on the right here was really just based on the as-built conditions. When we went to visit the site, we took measurements to be able to show the height of the railing as it relates to the front facade and the floor surface. I don't have specific information about the insulation. This was really just meant to be schematic for conversation so that you could understand the proximity. I assume that there is insulation wrapping here, but I don't know for sure.
Thank you.
well, sirs. And so just to give a little context of the whole project. So we had a 100-year-old building when we first got there. We after doing a test hole, we realized that the existing foundation was undermined because it's a stream that goes underneath this building. Okay, so the building came down and we installed an 8-story steel structure to hold up that historic facade. And then it was rebuilt really from the inside. And the new foundation is pinned in the bedrock. And it was a very difficult project. And so now, today, there is a new building there that's going to last for hundreds of years. And the old building wasn't going to be there very much longer. And a great amount of effort was put into that and to restore the historic facade in such a way that was exemplary. And so the setback penthouse the contemporary setback penthouse, wasn't given as much care, if you will, to communicate these details. And so the metal coping in the original drawing, for me, was just a copy and paste to get through. It wasn't really considered as a design object, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, and I just have a question on the windows. You said that the sill was raised 12 inches, but it looks like the head was raised. So it was just the window shifted up.
Correct. The window
size,
shifted, same
shifted up.
size, just
Okay.
shifted. Yep.
And that was to accommodate a baseboard and a windowsill, like typical. So again, there was a detail that was kind of missed through the whole process. You know, the process was very difficult, and these details were not focused on. But we needed to have a baseboard and a windowsill instead of the window being at what are operating windows.
Okay. Commissioner Chu?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what was built. When I look at your elevations, slide 8, the as-built shows a ladder to almost steel little balcony up accessing an access hatch that wasn't in the original approval. If I look at the right, isn't there a ladder going up to a platform? Now that would be very visible from across the park, but I don't see that picture in the image there. That looks like something, an element that was never even on the facade.
If I could just jump in for a sec. What we're looking at here are a series of adjustments that were made. And so staff had identified certain changes that, you know, if they'd been proposed in the first place, or even as kind of considering as built, that would still meet our rules or be consistent with things staff could approve. So some of the things that are happening up at the highest level with regard to bulkheads and upper level railings, the staff had already determined would meet our rules or be found consistent with the original approval. So what we've identified for the commissioners to look at here today are really what the applicants presented, those railing adjustments, the change from the picket railing to a glass railing at the second floor windows, and the change in color of the window frames. So essentially sort of that penthouse facade and things attached to it. Things that are beyond that, or above that in the background, the staff has reviewed. Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so I think we'll begin our discussion. Thank you. And as Corey said, this is a series of adjustments that came to us after the work was completed. It is clear that you came and got an approval for an amendment during the process in this middle elevation. So the process of getting an amendment was something you knew how to do. So it is unfortunate that these details didn't come to us beforehand. And I understand it was a complex project, but moving forward, it's always best to just pick up the phone or shoot an email to the staff person and say, I have to make these adjustments. Do I need to come to you and make that and ask that question first, so that we're not in this position at the end of the day? And we may have been able to advise you on a staff level solution that we could have done quickly that still would have met your needs. But we're here today to review these 3 items or 4 areas that the staff cannot approve, which is the shifting up of the windows on the second floor, the change from a cream colored window to black, the glass railings in lieu of pickets at the second floor of the penthouse, and then the placement and height of the glass railings at the parapet. And you've shown the visibility. And so we'll review these as if we were looking at them in the first instance. And we'll have our discussion about them. And so commissioners, I think when we evaluated this application originally, we really focused on the overall height of the penthouse, how visible it was from the street and from the park. And we may not have even focused on whether it was picket railings or glass railings at the time. So that's something to think about if you were looking at these changes. And we are only looking at these changes, but you're looking at at them in the context of a penthouse that we reviewed based on its visibility and its relationship to the facade below. So that may be a way to help you kind of put these sort of 4 or 5 discrete things into a framework to evaluate them. So Commissioner Chu, would you like to start?
Sure. Given what you've just said, Sarah, the process we're all not happy with because it shouldn't have come through this way. I will also say that I want the applicant to provide proper details for some of these conditions, especially the guardrail. I think that Mark's comment about the insulation is just, one item that I'm noticing on the detail that doesn't look correct. So that's just something that staff should be available to staff to review. In terms of what's being proposed or shown as an as-built for 7th and 8th floor, this is a window frame color. It looks like from the image that's provided that those colors match the adjacent window frames, from what I can see. Therefore, I think that is approvable, acceptable. The 8th floor guardrail to glass. This is the elements that were shown as pickets in front of the windows at a lower height, now switched to glass. As a detail, as a look, I don't have an issue with this. This is fine. Should have just been submitted to us, we would have approved it without this tension here that's happened. Now, the 8th floor change, this is the guardrail detail that's been completely altered to accommodate a planter. And the height of it has been changed. It's now glass. It looked like it was a picket railing as well previously. I have
Sorry.
questions about the detail.
Hang on, Stephen.
But
Corey?
I think it was a glass and metal railing.
a glass
It
and
had
metal
top bars and intermediate bars and, posts.
with glass
also
infill on the
glass
rest.
infill.
Okay.
And so now it's
And now
frameless.
it's just a cantilevered glass element with a shoe at the bottom. Okay. Again, I want a proper detail for that in terms of how it looks, in terms of its relationship to the parapet. I also noticed that there looks like a change of the coping to a stone coping from what was a metal parapet coping. Again, I don't necessarily have an issue with these choices. I wish they were submitted originally or during the process. So with the submittal of a proper detail in terms of how I look at it, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Commissioner Master?
Oh, there's the one last change, which was the raise of the window.
Oh, yes.
Right, 1 foot. When I look at the elevations here and I look at the as-built pictures, I don't have an issue with that elevational revision.
Okay. Commissioner Master?
Yes, I'll go through element by element as well. Starting with the shifting up of the windows, I think that's okay. The windows are the same size. I think the window, I guess the frame was changed from cream to black. Again, I don't think that's a big problem here. And then the glass railing is something that we would have approved otherwise. And then the placement and height of the glass railing also is not a huge difference. So I can find this appropriate.
Right. Commissioner Goldblum?
Okay. The only thing I have a real problem with here is the change in the color of the frames. I think that given, the visibility of the addition, which was always intended to be visible, and the direction of the original project, which was intending to echo the layout of the windows below in the penthouse above, I think that the black window, the black frames are distracting and feel out of place to me. Otherwise, I'm okay with the changes.
Okay. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I agree with Commissioner Goldblum. The frame should be painted the light color. Besides that, I can find this appropriate.
All right. Commissioner Chen?
The same here.
All right. Commissioner Bland?
I think the process here stinks. But I have such a different view of penthouses sometimes. As long as they don't distract me from appreciating the building below. To me, one of the most glamorous parts of New York City is penthouse living. Hugh Ferris did some of the most magical drawings ever assembled of living in penthouses. So I could have imagined a much different, much wilder, crazier, wonderful design than this, very respectful design, which is not to say that once it was approved here, it shouldn't have been done the way it was done. So that's the part that stinks. However, all of the changes are relatively minor, I think. Even the 12-inch high, I mean, that's not so minor normally, but I can accept it as actually even perhaps better, visually better. So stinks, but I'm all for it.
Okay. Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, particularly saying that what you have to, you're worried about, Department of Buildings and the approvals and so forth, which I was an assistant commissioner at buildings and I well understand, the necessity to comply with code. However, when you're in a landmark district or when dealing with a landmark building, you want to make sure that you're dealing with what the Landmark Commission needs, because Department of Buildings is not the arbiter for what should be done in a landmark district, nor is the building code, because lots of stuff goes in, is appropriate under the building code that we do not approve. So anyway, I just, we need to have, and they were closely working with the staff on a bunch of details, which is great, but except that then they ended up with missing a lot of those details. So it seems kind of sloppy in general that we've ended up with this situation. I don't know what to say. As far as most of the things that were changed at this point, I think they're going to be a minor impact. And, a lot of times we are not too keen on glass railings, but as long as this is not, really doing a lot of reflection or something, I think we could have approved that as presented. As far as the white, kind of back and forth on that, because while the white would appear better in terms of comporting with the existing windows, the dark framing is just causing the window to recess, I think, at a distance. So I could go along with that. It sounds like we don't have a,
We may. Okay.
majority, or if we have a majority, it's toward the dark framing. So the bottom line is that I will approve this, sort of under protest for the way it was done.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Lutfi.
Yeah, so I agree with my fellow commissioners about the disappointment and the lack of process on this, but I happen to agree that everything, including the black frames, are fine.
Okay. All right. So I think we have just,
I want to just echo his sentiments about working with staff on the detail of some of what's been presented to us.
okay. Okay. So I think we have just 6 to approve it as is. I think this is, you need 6 for a vote. So you're just sort of getting by, I think, based on this discussion. But it's just a lesson that in the future, no matter how complex, it's just so important to reach out to the staff person and to get advice before you make adjustments to the plans. But I think we have enough to support this today. So Commissioner Chu, would you make the motion, and we can add that they should submit all the details to the staff?
Right. In the case of LPC 2503831, 1143 Fifth Avenue, expanded Carnegie Hall Historic District, a neo-federal style apartment building designed by J.E.R. Carpenter and built in 1922-23, The application is to amend Certificate of Appropriateness 196500 to address as-built conditions. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. Also note that the owner completed a large scope of restorative work at the building's facade as part of the overall project. Finally, note that only the top portion of the penthouse is visible from across Fifth Avenue and that it is most visible from longer vantage points within Central Park during winter months. I recommend approval, finding that the slightly taller glass railing at the penthouse loft is seen against the backdrop of the approved bulkheads and fencing, thereby making the increased height less perceptible, and the changes do not call undue attention to the penthouse. That the dark finish and glass railings at the penthouse windows give these floors a more contemporary appearance that relates to the adjacent large apartment building and are consistent with dark windows and light cladding at other rooftop structures seen from the park above the roof line along Fifth Avenue. That the penthouse fenestration continues to align with the floors below, and even with the altered placement of the windows' dark finish glass railings, the penthouse has a discrete secondary presence at the roof and does not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building or the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District, and that the as-built conditions are in keeping with the intent of the original approval. The applicant is to provide the proper details to show these revisions to staff for review.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion? Second. Mark, will you call the vote? Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Thanks. And we'll move to our public hearing agenda now.
Start with public hearing item number 1, LPC 25-07613, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 301, Lot 44, 155 Warren Street and 14 Verandah Place in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is a Greek Revival style row house built in 1838 and a one-story garage building built in 1926. The application is to alter the areaway, replace windows and sheet metal lintels on the row house, and redesign the garage. And I'll note that I believe now the sheet metal lintels are being retained, so that's not going to be reviewed here today.
Great, thanks. Good morning. Michael Ingwe from Ingwe Architecture. Thanks for seeing me today. We're here to talk about two different properties, 155 and 155 Warren, and project on Verandah Place. It's a garage that's attached through lot. So we'll talk about 155 first. We're here for a few different reasons. One is that we are replacing the front windows, which are currently 1/1 windows, with 1/1 windows. They'll be simulated double hung passive house windows. Zola will be the company making these, but we're keeping them as 1/1. Just some facade details for this, for elevations. We actually were coming to replace the tin element above the window or the lintel, but we've since decided to strip it and paint it. We don't think it's original, but we also don't necessarily know what the condition is behind it. And the facade itself is in relatively good shape. And we don't want to open a can of worms. So we're not doing that anymore. Just some details for the simulated double hung. Some other projects or houses on the block. Many of them have 1/1 windows. On the other side of the block. We're also here to increase the lower portion of the areaway. You can see the existing above, proposed below. We're increasing it about 3.5 feet. Some images of that. You can see the dashed black line on the top right photo showing our new condition. There'll be no change to the curb, ironwork, or relationship to the stoop in our neighbor's house. Just some other houses on the block that are already done something similar, highlighted, as well as all of the other front yards on the block. The highlighted yards have all been modified on the other side of the block. On Veranda, there is an existing garage which has had a few lives. We are proposing to widen the garage door. Well, I'll start that here. We have to do a lot of work to the brick. The brick's failing in many places. So the brick, the outer facing brick is probably going to be removed and pulled back. I'll show you that in a few pictures. It's also really difficult to get a car into this. It's very narrow. A lot of the fences along Veranda have been built up. So we're proposing, while we do the brickwork, to widen the garage door. Probably would have reordered that. So you can see the existing on the left, proposed on the right. It'll be a wood garage door with a wood front door, transoms. You can see that we're keeping some of the elements above. We're also doing some corbelling at the top, which is consistent with a number of other buildings on that block, on Veranda, as well as the rear facade of our house. Some details of that wood garage door, along with how we're handling some of that corbelling work. This just gives you a sense of what's happening with the existing brick. If you look right where the garage door meets the brick, you'll see the face brick does not match the brick behind the face brick. Whether it was done originally or not, there's water getting between the two layers. We're proposing to use brick that does match the rest of the width of brick. It's a 3-width wall. And the brick we're proposing also matches our neighbor's house. At one point, we thought this brick wasn't original. It's definitely been modified a lot. Either way, the steel lintel is extending pretty far into it. It's rusting. Underneath all of the coping, there's water behind it. There's cracking. So we're going to have to do a lot of work on the facade regardless. For Veranda, I'm sure you guys have seen Veranda Place already, but Veranda has mostly carriage houses, not a lot of garages. In the historic district, there are several garages with different types of garage doors, but none of them have any special characteristics. Just a note to go back to this, we are using a garage door that's very similar to a garage door that's on Veranda, which is highlighted in the middle row. And that's it.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions, commissioners? All right, not seeing any questions. We'll move to public testimony and then we'll come back to you. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone joining us via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. I will promote you to panelists, after which you can unmute yourself, say your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker will be Lucy Levine.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. I think this application has changed since our committee saw it, but the application included an optional proposal of 4/4 windows, which we thought were the most appropriate solution for this row house.
It's a different application.
I'm sorry. I think that you're speaking about a different application.
Yeah, I think that's 229 Kane Street, right?
Okay, I think your testimony might be referring to 229 Kane. And this is
I'm in the wrong place.
1551.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, if anyone has testimony about 155 Warren Street, 14 Verandah Place, our next speaker will be John Graham.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society can support several of the changes proposed for these properties, including the sheet metal lintels and areaway on Warren and the facade changes to the garage on Verandah. Both the work on the lintels and at the areaway will be accomplished without the loss of any significant historic material. The bluestone pavers and painted steel hatch proposed for the areaway are materials seen at row houses in many historic districts. The new planting bed will add welcome greenery to Warren, and the new drainage system will prevent water infiltration into the building. We're happy to see the restoration of the historic ironwork. We'll also support the work on the facade of the garage facing Verandah Place. It will allow the building to be used for its original purpose without any significant change to its overall appearance. But we urge the applicant to work with staff to see if the symmetrical stepped parapet can be retained. However, we cannot support the proposed window change on the Warren Street facade for two reasons. First, we don't believe there's enough information on the new windows to make an informed decision. Notes state that the new windows are to be painted wood, simulated double-hung windows, but drawing LPC 03 seems to show that these would more accurately be called composite windows, with the tilt and turn sash in the lower half and a fixed pane in the upper. The presentation doesn't include catalog cuts of this sort of window, and it doesn't include any photos of tilt and turn windows in the typically awkward open position installed in a 19th century row house. Has the Commission ever approved tilt and turn windows for a 19th century row house? They shouldn't be here. The second reason we can't support these windows is based on the size of the building. Replacing double hung windows with tilt and turn sash may be appropriate on a Fifth Avenue apartment building, where the building's massive scale draws attention away from individual elements. That's not the case with a 3-story row house set 10 feet back from the sidewalk. Every detail on this facade is perfectly visible. Obviously incorrect windows will diminish the unity of this facade. We urge the Commission to take no action on this part of the application. These must be actual double-hung sash. If the choice of windows is to be based on energy conservation, we recommend interior storm windows. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else who would like to speak via Zoom, please use the raise hand function. All right, seeing none, I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to ask if you'd like to respond, but just before that, I'd like Corey Harala to explain this window type that the Commission has approved many times, and in fact is now in our rules that allow for staff level approval. Corey?
Yes, so I mean, I think these are actually the model simulated double hung windows that the Commission has approved many, many times in the past, originally coming through the hearing process, and then eventually at staff level per the rules change that are now essentially 6 years old. So even this applicant has had dozens of projects with this exact window model approved and used. So the only reason this is before you today is because the building is old enough that 1/1 would not have been the original configuration. So this is a question of the configuration being appropriate as proposed 1/1 rather than a multi-light configuration. Everything else about this in terms of the operation and details are things that would meet the staff level rules. With regard to tilt and turn as an operation, again, that's very typical for these windows. They are inward tilting or inward swinging. Generally, inward tilt is what sort of tipping in from that meeting rail is how it's used for ventilation, but it's also able to turn as a casement inward for cleaning purposes and other things. So again, this is really a model window for what the staff can actually approve other than this particular configuration.
So if, given the age of the building, it wouldn't necessarily be 1/1. Is there a multi-light configuration that's more typical? Is it 2/2? Is it, 4/4?
I think there's probably a variety of multi-light configurations that could be appropriate here, but I think, the applicant can address this, but we believe that the sheet metal lintels came in at a later date. And it's possible that at that same time, the original windows were replaced with 1/1. We've seen that happen on many other row houses before. So I'm not trying to say that 1/1 is inappropriate. We see very old 1/1 windows as well, but just not old enough for this building's original date.
Right. Right. So the 1/1 may be contemporary with the sheet metal lintels. Mike, would you like to go ahead and respond to that and any other comments?
Yes, thank you. I won't talk too much about the windows, except for that they are wood windows. They're not composite, and they are simulated double hung that we have gotten approved here quite a bit. The 1/1 windows are shown in the tax photo, along with, and they're there right now. Our client strongly prefers them. But I understand the point of view as well.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other final questions? All right. Yes, Commissioner Chu?
I had only one comment about the garage, or a question about the garage plan and elevation that was provided.
Mhm.
The openings are not on a brick module, and that I find to be a problem. Like, it's not the design, it's the actual details and the dimensions. I think, we go back there. It says that. It needs to lay out on a brick module, so on a 4-inch dimension, every opening, every brick wall, every element.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah, agreed and agreed and turned.
Yeah, and as it turns, it jams into the
Agreed.
three
It-
wide
it will be.
construction. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this could be revised.
Yeah,
Thank
agreed,
you.
100%.
Right. Any other final questions? All right, let's move to our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldblum. Would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed, and so we are looking at this windows on the front facade for their configuration, which is a simulated 1/1 double hung window, although they will operate as different as in a high performance way. And as the applicant said, the 1/1 windows have been there as early as 1940, and they may be contemporary with the sheet metal lintels, which are going to be restored as part of this application. Proposal also includes modifying the areaway and lowering the grade and adding a planter, and modifying the garage on Verandah Place sorry, is it Verandah? On the other side of the Rue Block building, to create a wider door. Much of the brick has to be reconstructed anyway. And of course, the garage is a 20th century addition, utilitarian addition to the historic district. Commissioner Ginsburg.
Thank you. So before I get into the specifics, I want to comment on the whole window issue. Double hung windows leak like sieves. And so you can't get to a passive house standard with a double high window. So the window they're proposing, which we've approved many times, keeps the feel of the historic window while giving you the air tightness that is required for a low energy building. Given that the tax photos show 1/1, so the 1/1s have been here a long time, and that quite possibly were done with the tin lintels, I think that's appropriate. I think the areaway is appropriate, and enlarging the garage door is appropriate. And to Commissioner Chen's issue, working with staff, just make sure it all works with the brick module. So I find this appropriate.
Commissioner Chu, yeah. Commissioner Chen?
Likewise, yeah, I think that actually it's an improvement of actually is necessary, especially the widening of the driveway. I mean the garage.
Vice Chair Bland?
I agree. I think Commissioner Ginsburg hit all the points and I agree with all of them.
Commissioner Chapin,
I also agree with Commissioner Ginsburg's remarks.
Commissioner Lutfi, Commissioner Chu,
Agreed.
and Commissioner Master,
Agreed.
and Commissioner Goldblum. Oh, good. Okay. We have a consensus, Commissioner Ginsburg. Motion.
With regards to LPC 25-07613, 155 Warren Street and 14 Verandah Place, Cobble Hill Historic District. A Greek Revival row house built in 1838 and a one-story garage built in 1926. Application is to alter the areaway, replace windows and sheet metal lintels on the row house and redesign the garage. I think it's now repair sheet metal lintels. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval that the work will not alter or eliminate any significant architectural features, that there is a variety of multi-light, one-over-one configurations among the 19th century small-scale residential buildings along the block, that the building was modified in the late 19th or early 20th century with the removal of its original windows and installation of pressed metal lintel caps, and therefore the new proposed 1/1 simulated double hung wood windows are in keeping with the historic change, that the historic pressed metal lintels, which are to be retained, relate well to and are likely installed at the same time and date as the existing 1/1 double hung windows, that the proposed expansion of the areaway, including removal of non-historic concrete paving and installing new bluestone pavers to align with the base of the brownstone stoop, will be in keeping with the areaways typically found in the buildings of this age and style within the historic district, that the later garage buildings are not considered as significant buildings within the historic district, and the one-story Verandah Place garage is atypical at this narrow street, otherwise composed of former multi-story carriage houses. That the reconfiguration of the new brickwork featuring an asymmetrical design consisting of raised pedestrian entry door lintel to align with the height of the garage opening, an exposed metal lintel over the garage opening, and a parapet featuring a tapestry brick panel and corbelled cornice will help the new facade harmonize with the streetscape. That the design of the new entrance door and garage door featuring paired paneled wood doors with glazed transom will replicate features of the historic entrance and garage door seen in the garage building's historic circa 1940 tax photo. And the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building or the Cobble Hill Historic District.
Right. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote?
Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Bland. Aye. Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 and 1 hesitant final. Favor. Unopposed. The motion
All right.
passed.
That's approved. Thank you.
All right,
We'll
now
move to the next item.
Public hearing item number 2, LPC 25-01412. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 312, Lot 50, 229 Kane Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is an Italianate style row house built in 1856, and the application is to replace windows. Anything else?
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Glickman, and seated to my left is my mother, Marilyn Glickman. We're here before you today regarding an application to the Landmarks Preservation Commission for 229 Kane Street in connection with the replacement of our street-facing windows. We're seeking to have the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for our current application as it relates to the configuration of the replacement third floor windows and the parlor floor window. With respect to the third floor windows, at the staff level, Landmarks could not approve our initial request for a 2/2 configuration or our subsequent and current 4/4 configuration. Staff stated that our windows must match the configuration not of 229 Kane Street, excuse me, but rather must match the configuration depicted in the same historic photograph or the one direct of the neighbor 227 Kane Street, which are of a 2/4 configuration. To be clear, the same historic photo for 229 on the right reveals that 229 Kane Street had a 2/2 configuration, which is why we made that initial request. And I would also point out that the adjacent building 231 to the right had a 4/4 configuration. I think it's important to note all three of these buildings were built at the same time. There's really 3 houses on 2 lots, I guess as a way to, I don't know, make additional money back then, back in 1856. Additional historic photos of neighboring houses on Kane Street, also built in the same era, make clear that there were a wide variety of window configurations that were used on houses on Kane Street, the vast majority being 4/4, 2/2, or 1/1. I was surprised, frankly, that staff wasn't able to approve our request for the 4/4 and be deemed acceptable. But I understand we had that given the historical record. But what we can see is that in the historic photo and in other historic photos that the configurations that we're requesting were clearly used and commonly used all across the Landmark District. We checked our tax photos to see what it was, and that was where our original request came from, and then modified accordingly when staff could not approve that at that level. Current photographs of Kane Street reveal that not a single house on this block, not even 227 Kane Street, which is the house cited by staff to have the 2/4 configuration, has the 2/4 configuration. In fact, I walked all around Cobble Hill on Kane Street, on Strong Place, on Tompkins Place, on Clinton Street, and I cannot find a single configuration on the 3rd floor that has the requested, required, staff level required configuration. With respect to the parlor floor window, the staff level could not also approve our request to replace the existing French door style window in the parlor floor and using a matching configuration of the 3rd floor, and stated that this window must be a double hung window and also use the 227 Kane Street 2/4 configuration. We were just trying to replace what has existed in this house for over 50 years, a French door style window, but that would match the configuration. And when closed, appears to be in all respects a double hung window and wouldn't significantly differ in appearance from other parlor floor double hung windows when viewed from the street. In the alternative, should the commission reject our request for the French door style window, we request that any replacement window be the same configuration as our request for the 3rd floor configuration. That is a 4x4, or if the commission requires a 2/2 would be acceptable to us as well. We had the opportunity to speak with Landmark staff on a number of occasions to discuss our application, who explained how they were unable themselves to change their initial staff level decision. I really appreciate their guidance and assistance in this application process. And we're now before you respectively to ask that you approve this application to make the replacements as requested. My mother and I support the work of Landmarks. It plays a critical role in preserving the character and appearance of our homes, and not just this, but many other New York City communities, but including Cobble Hill, Brooklyn, where I was born and raised in this house, and where I still live with my daughter, and where my mother still lives. We're not seeking to do something remarkable or unusual with a window replacement. We frankly would just like to have the same exact style of windows that all of our neighbors have currently. We of course had to go to the community board. We presented. They rather quickly moved forward with our application. I wasn't even able to give my fulsome application before them, as I'm making to you today. So I think it's perhaps that some of the community board might have even remembered our house when it was on the Cobble Hill House Tour in the 1970s, where we opened our house up to the public. I understand that the parlor floor windows are somewhat controversial because double hung windows are a concept, but I think it's actually quite of the charm. I know the commission plays an important role and looks very strongly at the historical record, and 50+ years isn't quite the historical record that you look at. You look back much further, and in our case of our house, to 1856. I submit that our application for the requested window configurations accurately represents the historic configurations used by virtually every other house on Kane Street, including those built at the same time as our house. And while the staff approved 2/4 configuration keeps in place a physical and aesthetic characteristic, so too will the requested 4x4 configuration, which is also historically accurate and currently used by many, many other houses on Kane Street. My mother and I both thank you for your time and attention to our application, and I welcome any comments that you or the public might have about our application.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? No. Okay. Let's see if we have any public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. Anyone joining us via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function, after which I will promote you to panelists. You may unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Christina Conroy.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, we are pleased to support the proposed window restoration at 229 Kane Street, and we're especially glad to see the return of arched-headed sashes, which will properly replace the modern ones that have been fitted into the arched openings. While the parlor floor window was likely not originally a French door, we have no objection to the proposed replacement and recognize that it likely functioned as a French door for decades. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker will be Lucy Levine.
All right. Okay.
Lucy Levine is about to speak. Okay, I see that Lucy Levine has raised her hand again. Okay, one moment.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC supports the 4/4 windows. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval.
Thank you. All right, so it's all supportive testimony. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move to our discussion?
No, I thank you very much for your time and attention to this and the other work that you do on behalf of preserving landmarks across New York.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, we'll close the hearing. Commissioner Lutfi, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. So this particular window type is a window that we find in row houses that were built between 1850 and 1860. And it's a window that simulates a casement window. So it has a wider center muntin. And typically it was 2/6 at the parlor floor, and then 2/4 at the upper floor windows, or sometimes 4/4. And many, where you had sort of a 2/6 or a 2/4, it was an asymmetrical sash, and the lower sash went into a pocket behind the window in the wall behind the facade. And this is a window type that occurred during this decade and was sort of changed over time. Lots of times they were actually at the parlor floor changed to casement windows. and other configurations. And so we know by the 1940 tax photo, most of the windows on the block had already started to change. 227, the neighbor had what the staff believes was the original configuration. But as the applicant pointed out, there were also windows that were 4/4 with this wide center muntin that were typical of this period as well. And so the applicant is proposing a 4/4 configuration so that the two sashes will be symmetrical. And again, that configuration is also a configuration that's found in the 1850s, except maybe at the parlor floor, but they're proposing something that would be uniform throughout. Vice Chair Bland, would you like to start?
If it's windows, I know you're always going to call on me. Well, I always learn something when these dissertations, particularly by you, Chair Carroll, very astute about the history of windows, which I am not, but listening and learning and so forth, I think I join all the testimony as well and think this is quite appropriate.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, I think the applicant presented a good case for the proposed changes or restoration, whatever. And, I think it's very approvable.
Commissioner Lutfi?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for your presentation, and I think it's going to really tie the, facade of the building together in a nice way and unify it with the surrounding building. So thank you.
Right, Commissioner Chu?
Agreed, and appreciate the pride that the applicant has in their home, the quality and the appearance of their home.
Commissioner Master?
Yeah, appropriate.
All right, Commissioner Goldblum and Commissioner Ginsburg?
Agree.
All right, I think we're all in agreement. Vice Chair Bland, would you make the motion?
In the matter of 229 Kane Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District, this is an application to replace windows. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I further note that historic tax photographs document the presence of segmentally arched 2/4 double-hung windows at the first and third floors and 4/4 double-hung windows at the second floor, all with the dark finish at the adjacent row house. I recommend approval, noting that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that none of the houses in this 3-building row has its original windows, and that they have all been replaced with either 2/2 or 4/4 double-hung windows. Therefore, the installation of 4/4 double-hung windows will be in keeping with the row and the streetscape. That the historic 4/4 double-hung wood windows are found at other Italianate-style row houses throughout the historic district. That the proposed windows will match the historic windows in terms of operation, materials, and details, and finish. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Cobble Hill Historic District.
All right, Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second?
Thank you. John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Lutfi, Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you very much. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 3, LPC 25-07638. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 6693, lot 76, 810 East 19th Street in the Fisk Terrace, Midwood Park Historic District. This is the colonial revival style freestanding house designed by Benjamin Dreisler and built circa 1907. And the application is to replace roofing.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Michael Sucher. My wife Aviva Sucher is with me. We are the owners of 810 East 19th Street, longtime and proud owners and residents in the Victorian Flatbush neighborhood of Brooklyn, which comprises about 10 different neighborhoods, some of which are landmarked historic districts. Fisk Terrace, Midwood Park is one of those. Some are not yet. Sorry about that. What you're looking at is a Victorian Flatbush neighborhood map. Fisk Terrace and Midwood Park, which constitute one historic neighborhood, are near the south end of that neighborhood. The various neighborhoods are designated, some are not designated yet, and we hope that in the future, since Victorian Flatbush as a whole represents a beautiful area with very old 1905 era buildings, which are not all the same, but which have many similar elements and which constitutes to the very special nature of that neighborhood, which brings in film crews and tourists from all over the world and contributes to the economy of the city of New York in its very special presentation. What you see in this photo is a picture of our house. It has a green roof. It has yellow and green elements to it. It is in the southeast corner of the historic Midwood Park, Fisk Terrace Midwood Park Historic District. There are different views of our house at this point, and you'll see that in all views, the same colors have been used for many, many years. In fact, for more than 3 decades. We've owned the house for about 40 years. The view from the back of the house is the same. In this view, you will see what caused us to get involved. The neighborhood friends, unfortunately, did some damage to our roof. And one of the pieces of damage that I call your attention to is encircled in red on the right-hand upper side of the photograph, where they pulled up shingles. And at that point, we started asking questions of contractors whether they could match the color of the shingles. And they found that that exact color doesn't exist anymore. And the color Hunter Green, which is a GAF Timberline product, was about the closest that we could find. So what we did to do an immediate repair was to utilize that Hunter Green in that repair, which is now encircled on the red in the left view. And what you see is hard to see, but a darker, slightly darker area that is in the foreground right over the gutter area in the encircled. But it matches pretty much exactly to what was there before and what is next to that repair that we had to do to recover from the neighborhood furry creatures. There are context photos with green roofs throughout the neighborhood, throughout Fisk Terrace, throughout Midwood Park, throughout the Ditmas Park area, which is also a historic neighborhood. And we believe that it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood. In fact, it adds the difference that the color makes adds to the quality of the neighborhood. Because what we're looking for in Fisk Terrace and Midwood Park and Victorian Flatbush as a whole is an area that adds life, adds light to the neighborhood. And it is, we've submitted about a dozen letters from neighbors who support, and we haven't spoken with anybody who is objecting to this. Staff had told us that they wanted a duller view of the roof, a duller color. We believe that if the neighborhood were all as dull as it was perhaps 100 years ago in gray tones, that would detract from the beauty of the neighborhood rather than adding to the beauty of the neighborhood. I've also submitted and have with me, and I will put this on the table, an example of the existing roof, which our contractor provided when he did the repair, and compared to the Hunter Green on the right. I put it down on the table with an envelope because the roof samples, the shingle samples, become very grainy and cause a mess. So I put it down in case you want to look at it. And you'll see that they are very, very similar, if not almost identical. And I thank you for your time and attention. My wife and I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we wish you all a good day.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? All right, let's see if we have any public testimony. I'll note that there is no one in the room to speak on this item, so I'll turn it over to Stephen to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you. Anyone joining us via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll turn it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Lutfi.
I would not wish that on anyone. The mess they made inside the house was legendary.
Yeah.
They have fingers that can open all kinds of things, and it needed an immediate repair just to stop them from coming back. But yes, they weren't sheltering there, but they were foraging them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's make a motion and to close the hearing. Commissioner Ginsburg.
So
would you make a
moved.
motion? Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed. And so as you've heard from the applicant, this proposed hunter green asphalt roof will be very, very similar to the green roof that has been there for many years. And this was not eligible for a staff level permit because we know that the green wasn't being green color wasn't being manufactured in an asphalt roof at the period that this building was built. So that's what precluded a staff level approval. But the applicant has shown us that there is a variety of roof types in this historic district, and these houses are also painted a variety of colors. So it is, as a district of freestanding wood frame houses, a colorful historic district. And so they're proposing to match the green that they've had for a very long time and as a repair. So Commissioner Master, would you like to start this one?
I'd like to thank the applicant for coming. You have a beautiful house, and I can find this appropriate.
Commissioner Goldblum?
I probably should be recused from this because I had a similar raccoon incident. And so I'm very biased. But I think that Mark will clear my accepting that this is appropriate as well.
Okay, Commissioner Ginsburg.
Well, as replacing a roof upstate where somebody got into the insulation, I also understand the problem. I don't think I need to recuse myself, and I think this is fine.
Vice Chair Bland.
Yeah, the invasion of furry things is, I think, a common problem, increasing problem, even as we increase our urbanization. They seem to be adapting and living well with us, but not so well here. This is completely appropriate. Thank you for coming, and your house is beautiful.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, it's good to see people dealing with the roof issues in a timely fashion and on these larger houses. And this is in line with previous approvals. It's appropriate based on the perceived appearance of this particular house and also on the examples the applicant presented from the neighborhood. So it's completely appropriate.
Commissioner Lutfi?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate and a lovely house in a beautiful neighborhood.
Commissioner Chu?
Appropriate.
All right, so we have a consensus. Commissioner Master, would you make the motion?
In the matter of LPC 25-07638, 810 East 19th Street in the Fisk Terrace Midwood Park Historic District, a colonial revival style freestanding house designed by Benjamin Dreisler and built circa 1907, application is to replace roofing. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Fisk Terrace Midwood Park Historic District. I also note that the house was constructed in the first decade of the 20th century at a time when the colors available for asphalt shingle roofing were limited to dull brown and grays. I recommend approval, finding that the house has had several alterations throughout its history, including the removal of its porch and its repainting in a yellow, green, and magenta scheme. Therefore, the continued use of green asphalt shingle roofing will be in keeping with the house's history of change. That houses with asphalt shingle roofs in a variety of colors exist throughout the historic district, Therefore, the proposed green asphalt shingle roofing at this house will not call undue attention to itself, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Fifth Terrace Midwood Park Historic District.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bland, Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 4, LPC 25-04670, an application for a binding report in the Borough of Brooklyn. This is Ocean Parkway Scenic Landmark, a scenic parkway designed by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux and built in 1874 to 76. And the application is to reconstruct a vent stack, install a new vent stack and cabinets, and modify paving.
Yeah. And Sarah, if I could say a few words.
Yes, please go ahead.
This was initially listed on the calendar as an advisory report because under the landmarks law, if there's an alteration to a structure in a scenic landmark, it is advisory. However, if it's an alteration to a building in a scenic landmark, it's then binding. And what we've discovered is there actually is a building below grade, a pumping station at this location. So this is technically an alteration to a building in a scenic landmark, and therefore it's a binding report from us.
All right, already?
Yes, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Andrew Ng. I'm with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. So today I'll go over my presentation on the Avenue U pumping station. Okay, so first, a little bit about DEP. For those who don't know, we are a city public agency. With our mission is to protect the environment and protect public health through protecting the environment. And some of the main things we do protect is air pollution, noise pollution, hazardous materials. But we're mostly known for water utility. That's what we do. We deliver over 1 billion gallons of clean water every day to the citizens of New York City. And with that over 1 billion gallons of water, we also treat that before it goes out to the water body to make sure that the surrounding environment, for our use for the environment, is safe and not impacting everyone. To be able to send all that water, from our homes to our 14 wastewater treatment plants, we have a network of over 7,500 miles of sewers. If we just ran it continuously, most of our sewers flow by gravity. And because it's such a long network of sewers, at one point it gets too deep for us to make economic sense. And therefore, we have all around New York City, littered 96 pumping stations where we do bring some of that sanitary and combined sewers from a low point, lift it up to a high point where it discharges into another interceptor, another sewer, to continue its journey to one of our treatment plants. So Avenue U pumping station is one of our 96 pumping stations. It's one of our older pumping stations, built in 1912. Normally, these pumping stations, we upgrade, major upgrades every 35, 40 years. Most of the equipment there are maintained regularly by our operations staff every 15 to 20 years. So we last upgraded this back in the 1980s. So we're 40 years into the last upgrade and we're due. The pumping station serves the Gravesend and Sheepshead Bay area in Brooklyn. And ultimately, it flows down into another pumping station, the Avenue V pumping station, and ultimately into the Owl's Head wastewater treatment plant that's located in Bay Ridge. So the station is located 100% below ground within the Ocean Parkway Eastern Median, Ocean Avenue and Ocean Parkway. One of the reasons and one of the needs for upgrading this pumping station is that when we do have an underground pumping station, we're more prone to catastrophes. And I think more recently, we're seeing more intense rain events. We're seeing heavier rains. We see Sandy, we see Ida. That leaves our pumping stations prone to flooding. And when flood waters get into our pumping station, it can submerge our equipment And while most of our equipment can be submerged and still operate, we do have electrical equipment underneath. And once that's submerged, we can't operate anymore. And so we don't want to get there. I don't think that's happened yet, thankfully. But we want to make sure that when we're operating this pumping station, that we're thinking of the future. We're thinking of the climate changes that's going on, making sure that this pump station is more resilient, is safer to operate, has more redundancy, because it is one of our more important pumping stations. Where it's located, there isn't any relief. If this pumping station backs up, we're talking about sewer backups into people's basement. So this is a real critical pump station for us. So this is the general location of where it's located within Southern Brooklyn. Again, this is on the intersection of Avenue U and Ocean Parkway, located in the Gravesend/Sheepshead Bay area on Ocean Parkway. Okay, so just to get a sense of the history of this pumping station, most people who's lived in this area would recognize this pumping station through this ornamental vent stack. Here's some historic photographs back in the 1970s, where you can see that vent stack. There used to be an old entrance to a pumping station prior for it to being landmark designated. That was removed in the late 19th century. So right now is no longer there. So today, let's just a couple more photographs of the Ocean Parkway scenic route. So today, what you would see, so the photograph on the left is a little older, taken in May 2021 when the vent stack was there. And I'll mention what that means in a minute. Today, on the photo on the right, is what the pumping station looks like. So the vent stack is no longer there because it was struck by a vehicular accident back in 2022. We've covered the opening for now. It doesn't make our operations very safe because we need that continuous ventilation. It isn't a manned facility, but now when we do have to bring people, we have to ensure that space is ventilated. We'll bring portable ventilation systems. So it takes longer for our staff to kind of go in there and to do what they need to do to maintain the pumping station. The entrance to the pumping station have been replaced with these, what we call Bilco hatches. So they're basically, hatches flush to the ground. You open them up and you see a stairway that then leads down to the pumping station. And so these are some of the reasons why it's prone. These hatches, they're not leak proof. So if this area gets flooded with water, water will get in. On top of that, even though the vent stack, right, we have the vent stack, that's for the air intake. So that's where air will get into the pumping station. So for ventilation system, it has to be balanced. And so we have exhaust vents that are also located on the ground, and they're also prone for a flood pathway to fill the pumping station. Okay, so this is a photo of the vent stack that was damaged. So all the materials we actually saved. It's sitting in another of our pumping stations. But it was pretty much totaled. And so certain things can be salvaged, but other things, it doesn't really make sense to salvage. And so we'll go through that in a little bit. Okay, so here's some existing photos of the neighborhood surrounding the pumping station. There's a new synagogue that was built a couple years ago. This photograph, both these photographs, you can see a vent stack, a vent graded, floor graded vent right on the ground. So again, pathways for flood waters to come in. Okay, so this is our pumping station. So everything you see on grade, is from the curb up, and we have a big structure that kind of runs about 30 feet down below. So this project will entail replacing all the existing equipment, all the pumps, all the ventilation equipment. The electrical room that's below grade, we are storm hardening it by building fresh walls that's waterproof with a submarine door, right? That can be deployed, right? That can be shut down. We're going to leave it open, but we can shut down if we know a rain event's coming. We may be impacted by floodwater. So that's sort of level 1 defense, right? But like everything else we design, we always have backups and backup systems. We're also a part of this project where we're installing a new discharge pipe We have one currently today. We want to build a second one. So in case the old one is probably 50 years old. If that one fails, we at least have the new one we can use while we repair the old one. So again, redundancies. Again, we're looking to try to make sure our pumping station, serves the community for the next 50 years. So with the hardening of and sort of floodproofing, all the pathways of floodwaters to get in, we're looking to address. So a couple of things we're doing. Those floor-mounted Bilco hatches, right? We're going to have deployable sort of covers, floodproof covers on them, so that whenever we do have rain come in. That's our second level defense. We have the building, we have the electrical room with a submarine door, but we also want to have covers over those openings. Those vent stacks, so the floor graded vents that were flush to the ground, we're proposing a new vent stack it's going to be parallel to the existing ornamental vent stack. We are going to restore the existing vent stack that was demolished in 2022. Finally, we are also going to add a new emergency generator cabinet. So what that's there for, if there's any power outages or even during recovery of the area, we can bring a portable generator to the site. And then we can splice in our wires, coming from the portable generator into the cabinet, so we at least can restore that pumping station while the rest of the neighborhood, could be recovering from a major event. So here's the side-by-side comparison. The existing today, it's on the left, and what we're doing on the right. Because of the new parallel force main we're putting in, there will be some excavation work. So we're planning to curb-to-curb restoration, plate pit restoration, along the work we're doing. You do see that we're also we have a curb cutout, sort of a curb extension. There's two reasons for the curb extension. You see it's sort of a double curb extension. So the first curb extension, right? If you're looking south, coming down the page, the first curb extension is necessary for the new covers. We have a hatch that's right on the curb right now. So we need a few more inches, a couple of feet extended so that we can deploy those covers. And the second extension is needed for ADA compliant. The ramps that are there now to the sidewalk, it's a little steeper than what the new code says. So we want to make sure that the steepness is compliant with ADA. And some of the reasons why the elevation, you can't just drop the elevation, is because we do have another hatch, those Bilco hatches located right there. Okay. So here is the rendering of some of the new assets, above ground assets that we're putting in. We have, again, the ornamental vent stack that was there. It's been demolished, but we're going to restore it. A new utilitarian vent stack and a generator cabinet. We're also putting in a little security camera, that's pointed at the pumping station. So in case any security issues or anything's going on, instead of bringing a guy out there, which may take 10, 15, 20 minutes, we can at least take a look and see what's going on. That camera will be located on that light pole, and you can barely even notice it because it's really small. It's about 7 inches, 7 by 7 and about 11 inches deep. So relative size of these stacks, the existing utilitarian is about 17 feet high. Sorry, the existing ornamental is 17 feet high. The new utilitarian will be about 9 feet tall. The generator cabinet will be about 5 feet tall. This photo also shows the existing grade level. We're at 11.44. Our design flood elevation, which is the guidance we get from the mayor's office, for future storm events, 100-year storm, what should we design our pumping station to? It's at 13.5. So it's telling us that if we're unlucky and a 100-year storm hits us, which is about a 1% chance every year, the pump station would be flooded out. So that's just why we have all these measures to make sure that doesn't happen. So the ornamental vent stack, the existing one is made out of iron. I see some documents that says cast iron, although the actual material, I think we want to test it to confirm if we need to. There is back in the early 1900s, construction of of sort of pipes and metal. There is a seam, a welded seam down the middle. Our proposal for the refurbished ventilation stack would be to sort of mix and match, use some of the original elements, particularly the crown, which we've saved. The body of it doesn't really make sense to reuse the existing body. A lot of it's dented, it's demolished. It's much cheaper to just have a new body, right? That'll be made out of iron, pretty much a straight pipe. And then some of the molds, the collar and the cap, because they are very unique, very decorative pieces, the plan is to use fiberglass because we can create moldings and use fiberglass. It's much cheaper, more economic to use fiberglass. And then finally, some of the other proposed items, new assets, the utilitarian style vent stack. That'll be made of iron, ductile iron. The electrical cabinet, again, because it's 5 feet tall, but because that cabinet needs to be protected from floodwaters. The bottom 2 feet of that cabinet can't be used for anything, otherwise they'll get wet and it actually probably creates a greater hazard. So it has to be a little higher, unfortunately. And within that cabinet, we have a breaker. We have some connection devices for electrical wires. So again, that'll be used in case there's a power emergency that we can bring an emergency generator. And finally, the light that's gonna be fixed on the pole. It's a small standard light that we're using at DEP facilities. It'll be pointed at the facility at the Avenue pumping station. Again, just for in case something happens, we get an alarm. We want to see what's out there before we bring someone on site. Okay. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
So I have two questions, one is I know HPD is requiring that all buildings be designed, I think it's 29 inches above design flood elevation to deal with expected sea level rise, changes in flood elevation. Are you taking something like that
Yes.
into account?
Yes, absolutely. So most of the design of full elevations is usually about 10 feet or 11 feet elevation. So that 29 inches is about 3 feet. And this is how we get that calculation to 13.5.
Great, thank you. And the other question is, given that you've had previous run-ins with cars in the vent stack, is there any protection that you're planning on for the 3 above ground elements to deal with potential future car issues?
In the design, we don't because it has been infrequent. It's been around since 1912. So I do know it did happen. So there's that potential for it to happen. I think it was always the potential for it to happen. But currently, our design, we don't have a crash protection.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. We're going to take public testimony and we'll come back to you after that. And I'll note that is there anyone in the room to speak on this item? All right. Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you. Anyone joining us via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. I will promote you to panelists, after which we ask you to unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker will be Christina Conroy.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, the Victorian Society supports most of the work at the Avenue U pumping station. The plans call for a modest extension of the sidewalk on the east side of the Ocean Parkway pedestrian path. And this new work will use materials which replicate those already in place at the intersection. It will not require the removal of any trees. It will include restoration of the lawn, and all this seems appropriate. The project also includes the construction of a new wet and dry well vent. The scale and proportions of the new vent, shorter and simpler than the historic intake stack, should ensure that it doesn't draw significant attention away from its larger neighbor. But we urge that the applicant work with staff to set the new vent as far away as possible from the original stack. We are concerned, however, that the proposed reconstruction of the historic intake stack will not match the original one in one important aspect. The applicants are proposing to create a new base for the stack out of fiberglass. The fiberglass will be at ground level in an area where rock salt, snow plows, and park department lawn mowers will get regular use. It will be next to a major traffic corridor. We believe that this is a grave error, which will turn into a maintenance disaster. Now, commissioners, you wouldn't allow historic cast iron columns on the ground floor of a building in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District to be replaced with fiberglass. And you shouldn't allow the proposed changes of material here. The base of the stack must be cast metal. Finally, we believe it would be an excellent if an emergency generator could be concealed inside a replica of the original historic black brick-clad entrance to the pumping station, which is seen in the 1978 photo and was present at the time of designation. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. All right, seeing none, I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 15 recommends approval.
All right. Would you like to respond to the comments we've heard?
Okay. Thank you for those comments. I think most of those comments will be well received. I think we can look into the material with the fiberglass. I don't think it was impossible. I think we did it as a cost saving measure. We've had conversations about these already as we went through design. I think we will likely need a specialist, obviously, kind of replicate that that cast iron base, the molding. Otherwise, I think we can definitely look into those. Thank you.
Okay, well, so on the the fiberglass base that you're proposing, had you thought about maintenance and the the durability of it in that location?
Fiberglass is a very durable and corrosive resistant material. With the maintenance, we don't think that will be a concern. But I think most people feel cast metal sturdier, and that's fine, right? I think there's a lot of technological advances like carbon fiber, fiberglass. They're very strong, very corrosion resistant. But I think it's just when we considered the different materials, durability was factored, and that's why it's fiberglass versus a different material like plastic. But it was easier for us, constructability wise, to mold and to put in set. But
okay,
we can look into the cast iron.
Right, and there was a comment about the proximity between the two vent stacks.
Right. So there is a minimum distance requirement. One is an intake, one is an exhaust. So we did actually put it, where we're code compliant. There were some conversations about actually putting it closer together, and we said we couldn't do that. We can move it slightly further away, but again, we mentioned we're not cutting any trees. And if you look at the photo, we can probably put it north a little bit more, but we're not talking about too much. There was an original proposal to put that vent on the other side of the median, but by doing so, we would have to shut down pedestrian to cross Ocean Parkway to Avenue, and the community board was extremely displeased with that design. So we actually combined the two the vent stack now. It's the vent stack for the dry and the wet well, and we're putting on the same side as the ornamental, but we can put it a little further away, but it's probably not much more unless we're cutting down trees.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, are there any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Lutfi.
You're reconstructing sort of the column with salvaged material, is that correct?
The crown, the top of
Or
it
just
would
the-
be,
just
yeah.
the crown, but then you're saying
The body,
the body.
it's essentially like a round pipe. And
That's
that was dented and destroyed. No, that was dented. To restore that, it didn't feel it was economical, as we can buy pipe that diameter fairly easily. So that was the thought behind of not restoring the
So then-
body.
So it's not restored, so that's new material.
New metal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I do just want to understand conceptually, was it strictly cost that made you not build the whole thing out of metal or out of fiberglass?
Cost and some of that body was wrecked. So pieces of that will have to be amended in one way or another. All right, so I think the thought is, okay, if part of that body has to be amended, why not just give it a whole new body?
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
okay.
So I think I.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Lutfi was asking whether you wouldn't do it all in one material as opposed to some metal and some fiberglass.
Right, so I can go back, thank you. So that's why we have specific sections where there's a delineation, right? The body, I guess the blue would be essentially a pipe. We can get it as iron. That would then connect to the base, the molding, which we're thinking fiberglass, but again, we can consider
But it was
doing cast iron.
originally metal.
Originally, the whole thing
Yeah,
was
that
metal.
That was really, yeah, cast iron, okay.
Hi, Sybil Young with New York City Parks. Just wanted to add to that, whatever the material selected, it's going to be painted all black. So it will read either whether it's fiberglass or the cast iron, it will be an all black structure again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other final questions? All right, let's move to a hearing. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to close the
So
hearing?
moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. And so this is an application to replace a missing vent stack, reusing the crown of the damaged vent stack and doing the shaft in metal and the moldings in base and fiberglass. And then to install another smaller vent stack and then a generator on the site. This also includes returning more grass to this end and of the promenade or of the median, and then reconfiguring the curb line to deal with accessibility. Commissioner Chapin, would you like to start this one?
Well, as a former first deputy commissioner at DEP, I certainly understand the need for the replacement of this element. And I think it's, very necessary infrastructure reconstruction. And in general, I think the applicant is sought to be sensitive to the its placement in a scenic landmark. And the above ground restoration, I think, is generally suitable. I think that obviously trying to preserve the crown, which the existing crown is great. And the use of the iron in general for the base is good. I am a little concerned, as the testimony reflected, that the fiberglass base might get, damaged fairly easily compared to having an iron base. I'm not sure that the cost there is so great of a difference, and I would encourage the applicant to think about use of a metal base, because I do think it's going to survive much better the various maintenance that would take place around it. I think that the new combined wet well and dry well vent stack is nicely designed to try to complement the existing historic feature. And I don't, as far as the access, some of the testimony reflected, why not put the brick building back? But, things change over time in terms of maintenance, and I don't think that's really necessary when they're using it. They're using an alternative kind of access at this point. So it could be nice, but it just isn't, I think what's needed for the modern situation. So I think my only, as I said, advice would be that maybe the cast iron on the base might be more appropriate for maintenance, for long-term, because this thing's going to maybe be around, as was stated, for another 100 years. So pipes in the ground are doing 100 years. So anyway.
Okay, or some metal. Commissioner Lutfi?
And so interesting. Now, I mean, if we weren't so focused on what we're approving, I would have had a million questions about what's going on underground. And also how it's being transferred to Aloe. I mean, I just don't, it's amazing. So I really want to say that think you've done a really excellent job of figuring out how to make this work. People are the systems people, and you know what you need from an operational and a safety standpoint. And it seems to me that the components that you have in here and their location make sense. And in fact, if you were to put an entryway back, it would only clutter the area. I mean, at that moment that it was there weren't three other components. There was just really this one other component. So I think that makes sense as well. And I'm glad that the replication of the original stack is happening. I would like to say that I think it should be in the same material. And that's it.
Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, I also want to commend the applicant on the thorough presentation. I also think just addressing this existing and increasing concerns of flood control in the city is such an important task that's going on constantly, and constantly rising the design flood elevation line as well creates a lot of needs and changes in our systems. It seems to me that it is relatively minimal intervention, and that a lot of effort has been done to keep it that way. I tend to agree about the comment about the generator connection box, which is, if anything, I would want to reduce its impact and not put a larger structure to house it. So I think what is being proposed is probably the most minimal version that we can get to. I think it's appropriate.
Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree with all the other commissioners, especially Commissioner Chapin. I think that they've done a very good job in minimizing the visibility of it with the color. And I also encourage them to explore the base as a cast iron base if durability is an issue.
Commissioner Goldblum.
I know this corner much too well. I've been working on building that was seen in the picture for the last 12 years. And it's still not done, and it's very painful to see it. But I always really loved that tower, and I think its absence is kind of it's a landmark as you come up Ocean Parkway, and Ocean Parkway has undergone a lot of changes in those 12 years. Not only the hitting of the column, which I think is great that they're restoring. But one of the most important changes actually has been the introduction of probably about 30 cameras to keep people from speeding. And so now what used to be a major drag race place has been significantly, if not completely, reduced. So I think that the safety of the column has been enhanced by the very aggressive 2 per block kind of camera arrangement that they've got there. So I think it's safe. And that goes to the concern about, I think, the base. So the real question is whether the base is, whether you're more worried about corrosion or impact. And I think that it's not unreasonable to consider that corrosion might be the more pressing concern. And so I would leave that decision to them. If they do have a heavy gauge fiberglass that's filled or somehow reinforced, it could be that it could deal pretty well with impact. So I'm not opposed to the fiberglass per se. I do think that the idea of separating the 2 vent stacks is a very good one, and they should be encouraged to push that the new vent stack far away, because it will compete in a way with the iconic nature of the column.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
So in general, I agree with my other commissioners, a very thoughtful and well-done project. Following up on what Commissioner Goldblum said, since I've worked with fiberglass on boats, fiberglass can be made as strong as cast iron and does have advantages in terms of corrosion. So I don't see a problem with using fiberglass because it is also easier to mold into the whatever shape, and it's going to be painted, so you really won't notice the difference, and I don't have a problem with that.
Vice Chair Bland.
Bingo. I agree with that, and your thinking behind it too. That fiberglass is fine. Although on the other hand, Commissioner Goldblum said either one, and I could agree with that as well.
Okay. All right. So I think we can make a motion to approve this binding report, and we can ask them to explore the base material with the staff for a material that best meets their needs and matches the rest of the fence stack.
Certainly I personally don't object to the fiberglass as long as it's strong enough to, work for them. So, I
Yeah.
don't see even
Well, I guess
necessary.
we could do an approval as is, because if they wanted to change it to metal, that would be staff level anyway.
They heard the discussion,
Yeah.
so they, they'll deal with it as it need be. Okay. Okay, in the matter of an advisory report, Borough of Brooklyn, LPC 25-04670, Ocean Parkway Scenic Landmark. A scenic parkway designed by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvin Ball and built in 1874-76. Application is to reconstruct a vent stack, install a new vent stack and cabinets, and modify paving. I note that that Ocean Parkway was the first road of its kind built in the United States, that it established a new concept in road building, and that it is a large open space with grass and trees that serves as a promenade and greenbelt. Staff also notes, I also note that the historic air intake stack was installed in conjunction with the construction of the Avenue U pumping station between 1912 and 1915, and that the stack was demolished in a vehicular accident in 2022. I recommend that the Commission issue a positive report finding that the proposed work will upgrade the existing below-grade pumping station to comply with current standards for safety, efficiency, and resiliency, that the historic air intake stack will be reconstructed in its original location utilizing salvaged historic iron components where feasible, that the proposed ductile iron and fiberglass replacement components will replace damaged cast iron elements and replicate them in terms of placement, dimensions, profiles, and details, that the simple design, typical materials, and limited size of the proposed new metal vent stack and cabinet and concrete pad, and the black painted finish of all the elements, including the historic air intake stack, will have a subordinate presence at the Parkway, that the widening of a section of the median will comply with safety, functioning, and access requirements, and feature a footprint which will harmonize with the historically linear form of the median, that the proposed concrete pad and paving will be compatible with the existing concrete paving in terms of material and finish, and that the cumulative effect of the number, size, and placement of the installations and modifications will not detract from the overall picturesque character of the Parkway.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
Okay. Mark?
Carol?
Aye.
Commissioner Bland? Commissioner Chapin?
Aye.
Commissioner Chu?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum? Commissioner Lutfi?
Aye.
Commissioner Master?
Aye.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right. So that's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 5, LPC 25-06619, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 847, Lot 29, 3741 East 18th Street in the Ladies Mile Historic District. This is a neo-Renaissance style store and loft building designed by Mortimer C. Merritt and built in 1896 to 1897. The application is to construct a rooftop addition, enlarge an elevator bulkhead and parapets, and install rooftop HVAC equipment, storefront infill, and a canopy.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Todd Poisson, partner at BKSK Architects. With me today is Simon Czar, owner of our building, and Dylan DeCiante, our project manager from my office. Okay, we're going to talk about the building at 37 East 18th. Okay. The building is on the eastern edge of the Ladies Mile Historic District. It was designed in 1896 by Mortimer Merritt for Mr. Eli as a store and loft building, 10 stories, very characteristic of the later stages of development of the Ladies Mile District. We're going to talk about the 4 things that were just mentioned: the ground floor storefront modification, a vertical extension to the elevator bulkhead, a modest rooftop addition, and relocating mechanical equipment accordingly on the roof. First, we'll talk about the ground floor storefront. The designation report notes that only the center bay of the ground floor storefront is intact of original material. It notes that the left and right bays have modernized doorways. We are only touching modern infill at the storefront to differentiate the entrance, to upgrade the lobby entrance to the office floors above. That's shown in yellow. We're going to zoom into that area now. So the left is the existing condition. It's a painted modern infill in that bay to the left of the cast iron pilaster. We're only removing the modern infill. We're not touching any historic material by removing this painted black kind of 80s era pair of doors, replacing it with a larger entry door and a single side light, and creating what we were calling this little mini marquee that extends to meet the furthest extent of the pilaster on the right. And the idea is to give that little mini marquee a little stamp detail on its leading edge to recall the detail of the pilaster. The marquee has a linear LED light on the underside, a security light, and 2 standoff letters, the numbers, to differentiate the lobby. The material is a stained statuary metal, stained to be a dark brown bronze color. There's a custom length rockwood door pull as well. This is in perspective on the left, just touching the modern infill on the far left. The transom window is the same size, a few inches shorter, to incorporate a narrow air slot on the top for the air conditioning of the lobby. In drawing form, existing condition on the left, proposed condition in the middle, proposed section on the right, existing plan lower left, proposed plan in the middle, showing that little mini marquee extending to the face of the adjacent pilaster. Materials being proposed are the stained statuary metal to be a dark bronze, the custom rockwood pole, the security camera, which is available in custom colors that we will match the dark brown color, and the LED fixture on the underside of the marquee. So now the elevator bulkhead vertical extension, as well as the mechanical relocations and the rooftop addition are all in this, packed into this chapter. Existing roof plan on the left, you can see the elevators, existing elevators do not come to the roof, just the bulkhead does, a stair bulkhead and a skylight. We are proposing the freight elevator bulkhead. We are proposing a rooftop addition snug between the existing bulkheads and the existing skylight. And extending the two elevators to the roof to accommodate access to the roof. We are proposing to extend the parapet on the upper left of the proposed plan. You can see a proposed extended parapet to facilitate a guardrail height parapet for a raised platform roof terrace in the back portion of the roof. An infill parapet in the middle between the stair bulkhead and the elevator bulkhead to accommodate a enclosed stair bulkhead landing, and then the proposed bulkhead extension. The freight elevator on the right is being extended 2 feet towards the west, left in plan. You can see the mechanical equipment in the upper left of the existing plan. That dunnage goes away. The mechanical equipment is relocated to the eastern portion of the roof, which is on the right side of the plan, spanning on dunnage that spans between the two existing bulkheads. In elevation, you can see the existing rooftop bulkhead for the elevator is 10 feet tall. We are proposing to extend it 16 feet to 26 feet tall. You could see the mechanical equipment in the background pushed away from the side lot lines to be out of view, and the rooftop addition that's between the bulkhead and the skylight is also in the background there. The west elevation, existing condition on the left, the proposed condition on the right, the extension. The existing condition of the west elevation is an American bond brick with header courses every 6 courses. We're proposing to imitate that for all the infill that you see in the parapet, as well as the bulkhead extension. The rooftop, that kind of gable thing you see there, is in the background from this point of view, as well as the mechanical equipment on the left. Existing axon on the left, proposed conditions on the right with the standing seam metal roof on top of the proposed amenity room that's between the two bulkheads, the extended bulkhead and the 2 levels of the rooftop terrace, and the relocated new mechanical equipment on the east. Taking a section through the amenity room, set back from the western lot line, there's that enclosed stairwell that we described a minute ago with the extended parapet to accommodate its wall, and rooftop mechanical equipment in the far back on the top of the existing bulkhead on the back part of the building. The eastern mechanical equipment pushed back 3'6" to be out of view from the eastern side, and you'll see that in a minute. Looking at it 3-dimensionally again, just seeing the standing seam metal roof and topping the rooftop amenity room between the 2 bulkheads and the extension of the 2 bulkheads. So now we're going to look at many views of this. You can see it as you get down south on Broadway, the bulkhead that is. But first we're going to just step to the east momentarily, look back through the gap between the 2 buildings, the gap between the 2 buildings directly east of our building to show that those mechanical equipment that I just mentioned being pushed back 3'6" from the eastern lot line. This has been mocked up, and these photographs are of the mock-up condition. So from the eastern view through that slot, you don't see that equipment, nor do you see anything from the primary facade. Now we're going to walk over to the corner of Broadway, and then walk down Broadway. At first, you only see the structure for the support for the mock-up there on the lower right of the zoom in, with the bulkhead just peeking out a little bit. But now, as you can imagine, once you get to Broadway, the broad stretch of Broadway, you do see it start to poke out. You also see the idea is to extend where the parapet and the existing elevator bulkhead already makes a vertical extension. We're extending that portion there. You can see in the zoom in. And then we're going to march kind of down south on Broadway, first to 17th Street on the northern corner, where this is probably the most visible, the largest visibility that one sees. Zooming in on the right, so the existing conditions, always in this presentation, existing conditions upper left, then the rendering in the middle, and then a zoom in of the mock-up in the lower right. We're now in Union Park, north of the pavilion, where you do see a glimpse of the mock-up through the gap at 31 East 17th. Back to 17th Street, but now on the south corner, where you see the bulkhead extension and the infill of the parapet to accommodate rooftop terrace occupancy. Now we're just going to keep marching down. Now we're on this, the thumbnail plan on the left is going to stay the same, but we're just going marching down 1 through 4. Now we're at number 2, block further south. Again, existing photograph on the upper left, zooming in towards the right, and then zooming in on the zoom in for the mock-up to show the extent of the mock-up once you've zoomed in. We are now down on 15th Street, looking back north, squinting on the lower right to see the mock-up extent. Number 4. Similarly, number 4, we're a block further south. Now we're going to step into the park again, but now south of the pavilion. 1 and 2, you could see kind of glimpsing through the trees, a little extension there of the mock-up. Similar here, we're now at 3 and 4, where you could see through, on number 2, you're seeing through the gap again at 31 East 17th, and number 3 and 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, you do not see anything. We'll go to 5, 6 next. Number 7, you do glimpse it again through the trees. And then we're going to go back to Broadway and continue down, all the way down to NYU, where if you really take your binoculars out in that upper left photograph and squint, you could see the mock-up on the lower right. And the last one here, down 13 blocks from the site. Precedents in the Ladies Mile District characterized by large bulkheads of all sorts of elevators, chimneys, and stair bulkheads. Different kind of brick patterns that we see versus the existing lot lines, whether they're coated, painted, or new brick. That's a discussion we've been advised to continue with staff of the exact brick that we'll be proposing to match. The idea is to pick one, but we do have a couple of conditions where the elevator bulkhead is going to sit on top of a painted section, and the infill of the parapet is on top of original brick. So the idea is to pick one that mitigates between two. But as you can see, it's very characteristic of the district to have all kinds of a hodgepodge of brick colors on those lot lines. The way these two sheets, this and the next sheet, is organized is the addresses up top and then the details on the bottom. And these are just 10 examples in the district, but there are others. Again, different styles painted versus different brick. Just a quick image of our mock-up that's been installed that you just seen photographs of, and just an image of the rooftop addition. And that is it, really. We just have in the appendix plans and
Okay.
But yeah, is it?
Thank you. We've got some questions. We'll start with Commissioner Goldblum and then go to Commissioner
Just a
Ginsburg.
question about the nomenclature. When you talked about the storefront, you used the term stained metal.
Yes.
Is that bronze? Does that mean it's patinaed or does that mean it's a paint? What does that exactly mean?
That we've worked with Dawson or other companies like that. They'll give you statuary doors and then they hand stain it to our
So,
sample.
Like, do you see the grain or?
Yes, yeah, you see a grain and
Okay, does it need to be-
directional.
Does it need to be replenished?
It needs to be cared for, but no more than,
What's
Yeah,
the difference in that and just patina ink? Is there a difference or is that the same thing?
we wanted to establish a benchmark of a nice deep bronze color that's through the staining.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Commissioner Ginsburg.
So is the changing of the doors because of ADA or are there other reasons?
No, it's just to upgrade the office lobby and the office. There's an interior office upgrade package along with this project. It's to differentiate the lobby entrance more from the storefront. That's the Anzac store, which is staying in place.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? Yes, Commissioner Chu.
The overrun on the elevator, could you just quickly talk us through what exact, I saw the mention that said roof to top is 26 feet.
Yes.
That seems very tall. Like, what have you tried to do to reduce the height of this?
So we've worked with the elevator consultant to make sure that this is the smallest it can be. It's a cellar traction system, so there's no rooftop machine room. His section shows 23 feet, 4 inches to the underside of the structure. We're giving ourselves a little cushion there for roof structure and a curb. We could probably get it down 12 inches or so, but we wanted to make sure we were not over-promising in terms of the height today.
But your cab is what, 8.5, 8?
Yes.
Okay.
8.5.
It just seems very tall. Typically, I'm used to like maybe 11 feet, 12 feet above the top of the top floor cab, which would still be significantly under 26. So
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
in the appendix didn't get in here. Didn't. Oh, sorry. Okay. So there's the plans.
You very, correctly and properly showed us 20 views of it from every
Yeah,
direction.
we were advised to keep them all in case there's some questions, but
Okay.
yeah, so there is no machine room up top. The current rules of the city of New York regarding elevators keep changing, and the most recent thing, we've been grappling with this issue with every project, not just landmarks projects, to keep these bulkheads as minimal as possible. But this shows 23 feet, 4 inches to the underside of structure. This consultant has come back and said, maybe we could get 12 inches out of it, but we didn't want to promise that yet. The 23.4 is to the underside, plus, the roof structure and a little curb and roofing, which leads to our 26-foot option. The overrun is just the rules of New York of what they are now.
And
We-
do you have a sample of the bronze stained finish?
Not with us, no.
Okay. Because the adjacent metal on the storefront is a charcoal
Yes.
color.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, we're going to take public testimony and we'll come back to you. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Okay, noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Anyone joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function, after which I will promote you to panelists and you may unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker will be Christina Conroy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society. Now, we have no objections to the rooftop addition and bulkhead. However, the proposed doorway with an asymmetrical side light is not historically accurate to the building's original design. We recommend requiring a design more in line with the existing elevation and incorporating an automatic assist if accessibility is a concern. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else joining via Zoom who would wish to speak? Seeing none, I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 5 recommends approval.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to the comments we've heard?
Thanks for the comments. The door width is 4 foot. It's meant to just really reflect and address modern use and attract new users to the upstairs. The infill, that pair of doors is not original. That's about it.
Okay, and it's for, the door with the skylight is for accessibility.
The existing door is 3 foot wide, which would be minimal for accessibility. Our 4-foot door is simply for part of the upgrade.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any other final questions?
You are providing a ADA assist, are you? Or
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay. All right, well, let's close the hearing and begin our discussion. Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Chapin. Would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing's closed. So we have the replacement of modern storefront doors with a new entry door and canopy. And I think, a single door and side light is something that the commission has approved in the past to allow for accessibility. And then at the roof, we have a rooftop addition, a bulkhead, and adjusting the parapet height. Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start?
I think that the rooftop addition is acceptable and appropriate. I think that the neighborhood has a long record of visible rooftop accretions of a utilitarian nature. And I think that the visibility of the elements that are being proposed here fall well within that scope. I think that the front door modification is generally fine. I do worry about the brown color, since the historic stuff that's right next to it and everything else is a different color. It just seems to me like it kind of has the feeling of like, oh, they could only buy Duranodic, so that's what they put in. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear what other people think, but I'm a little bit concerned with the color.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
I agree with Commissioner Goldblum, and I agree with his question about the color, and it may be better to match the adjacent.
Vice Chair Bland.
I agree too. I think the color of Duranodic brown is wrong. It should match the adjacency. I also was beginning to wonder about the height on the roof, the bulkhead, but it's seen against so much other rooftop and other higher buildings all around it. It just plays into the whole roofscape scene in New York, so it doesn't bother me. I think it's fine.
Commissioner Chapin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about this issue of the color, because I thought, it was supposed to be somewhat of bronze, and I thought, if it was bronze, it works for me. And if it's just kind of a brown, I think, Michael's comments are.
You'd rather have it
appropriate,
match
yeah.
the rest of the infill if it's not real bronze. Okay.
But otherwise, I think, the rooftop is fine. It's, minimally visible from far away, and, it's in general, I can approve all of that.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Yeah, I think the applicant has done a good job on the storefront in terms of modifying it so that it's differentiated because it is an office use. Thank you. Oh, that was you. Let's see here. But I'm not so sure. I'm not sure about that bronze color. Although I feel like they did a good job with the banding. Not sure about the bronze color, although I believe I don't think it has to be black. I think it just has to harmonize a little better in terms of the color chosen. So I think the applicant should work with staff on that. And while there are accretions, on a lot of rooftops in this area, it is so highly visible from Union Square, from 15th, 16th, and 17th, east and west. I would encourage the applicant to work with staff to see if there's an opportunity to reduce the visibility.
Commissioner Chu.
Yes, I would say that I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners. I think the rooftop volume does sit fine with the view of the cityscape and accretions on rooftops. I do want them to check that dimension with staff again, just to make sure that is the minimum height. And if they can get a foot out, let's take the foot out of the run. In terms of the storefront downstairs, I don't know, I guess my instinct I feel a little odd about this color choice. I think that a statuary bronze tends to be very dark, but we don't have a sample, and the renderings unfortunately don't feel that convincing to me that it's working with the charcoal color. And if I look up above, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but is that patina metal on the frames? Just starts to become a bit cluttered visually in terms of color scheme. So I do think that should be looked at with staff, the color choice for the new storefront. The detailing and the elevation are fine with me.
Okay. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree with the other commissioners in terms of the bulkhead and the rooftop addition on top. There's so many varying heights of buildings and other rooftop accretions that I think it's fine. In terms of the storefront, I think that the changes that they're asking for are pretty modest. And I understand that the tenant really wanted this color of the dark bronze to differentiate this entrance versus the other black storefront entrances. And for me, that's compelling, and I don't find it to be as stark of a change given their rationale. So I'm actually okay with this color.
Okay. And as Commissioner Chu points out, it may be the rendering as well. And so why don't we make a motion to approve with the condition that they review final samples of the finish with the staff to ensure that it is harmonious, and that they continue to work with the staff on the minimal height of the bulkhead, elevator bulkhead.
Great. Regarding 37-41 East 18th Street in the Ladies Mile Historic District, the application is to construct a rooftop addition, enlarge an elevator bulkhead and parapets, and install rooftop HVAC equipment, install infill and a canopy. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Ladies Mile Historic District. I recommend approval with recommendations, finding that the proposed work will not eliminate any significant architectural features. The proposed entrance infill will be compatible with the building's remaining ground floor infill and typical of entrances found at store and loft buildings of this style and age. In terms of basic composition, materials, and profiles, and predominance of glazing, that the modestly scaled canopy will help to differentiate the main and building entrance from the other entrances of the building without detracting from the symmetry and hierarchical organization of the facade. The decorative banding of the canopy, matching the building's historic cast iron banding and pattern, will be well integrated into the canopy design and help unify it with the facade design. That the statuary dark bronze stained finish of the infill and canopy may recall finishes historically found at the main entrances of buildings of this style and age, and may be harmonious with the black painted infill at the adjoining bays of the building with streetscape views. That the proposed rooftop elevator, bulkhead, and raised sections of the parapet will only be visible from public thoroughfares at a distance within the context of varied streetscape silhouettes featuring buildings of different heights and numerous rooftop accretions. The bulkhead will feature simple massing, brick cladding, and will be raised to the minimum height necessary to provide elevator roof access. The raising the small sections of the parapet of the lot line facade, which features an informal step profile to be closer in height to adjoining sections, will be in keeping with secondary facades of large commercial buildings. That the occupiable rooftop addition and mechanical equipment will only be minimally visible in varied streetscape views at a considerable distance. However, I recommend that the applicant work with staff to both ensure that the height of the bulkhead is at its minimum, and to explore the appropriateness and compatibility of the bronze finish in relation to the historic material around it.
All right. Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Bland.
Aye.
Mr. Chapin.
Aye.
Mr. Chu.
Aye.
Mr. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Mr. Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, that's approved. And we'll move to the next item and the final item.
And that is public hearing item number 6, LPC 25-06392, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, block 1405, lot 47, 156 East 71st Street in the Upper East Side Historic District. This is an Italianate style row house designed by W. O'Gorman and built in 1871. The application is to construct rooftop and rear yard additions and modify the areaway.
Please go ahead, come up to the mic and you can state your name and you should have access to the presentation if you move the arrow keys.
Got it. I could use this to point. correct?
Yes. Is that the right pointer? That might not be. Yeah.
I'll just use the mouse. Good morning. My name is Dan Kaplan from Bowerbird Architects in Gowanus, New York. I'm here to present 156 East 71st Street, a brownstone. Oh, there we go. A brownstone built in 1871 that we propose to do a rear addition, modestly 7'5", and a rooftop addition that will be invisible from the street. From the block plan, you can see that these are all townhouses of one kind or another. Some are quite tall. These are all high-rise condominiums. There are 27 townhomes on the block, 21 of which already have one form or another of a rear addition, multi-story mostly. Some have multiple additions, and most of these have rooftop additions of one kind or another. Can I zoom into this? You can see here a multitude of different additions. This is our property, which sits next to a much taller building that was originally the same as ours and torn down in the 1920s, rebuilt what they call 6 stories tall, but much, much taller than our property. This is our property. The neighbor to both sides is significantly taller than ours and will remain so even after a rooftop addition. This one will be approximately 2 feet taller, and the only thing projecting above that would be our bulkhead, which is set back from the front street wall by 11 foot 10 inches. This one will remain much taller than ours, and both block the sight line of the rooftop addition from the street. This is a historic tax photo showing more or less the same front facade that we have today. This is a current photograph of that front facade. This is an existing plan where we have a rear yard that we're going to remove and reinstall further back using the same materials. This is the almost 7.5 foot addition on the rear. And the other change to the exterior that we're proposing is to enlarge this front yard, which is extremely cramped and doesn't conform to code currently because the staircase deposits you right at the front door without enough of a landing. So what we propose to do is go no further than the neighbors next door, which I'll show you in photographs, remove this staircase here, enlarge this staircase, and give a generous area to put trash and other things that are needed for housekeeping. I'm just going to move up to the roof and can return to any of that with questions. This is the rooftop addition. It'll be set back based on sightline studies we've done. We've done a mock-up and invited Lacey, our preservationist, to come and see to demonstrate that it will not be visible from the street. We also have a rear setback of 3 feet per landmarks requirements so that the rooftop addition is differentiated from the existing building as much as possible. We have a green roof going on top and a sloped bulkhead so that, again, it would be minimally visible. It's not visible from the street at all, but minimally visible as much as possible. This is a front elevation. The rooftop addition will be made of a brownstone stucco to match the existing stucco of the front facade. And anywhere that you see double hung windows are going to be Marvin Ultimate windows, will match the existing wood brick molds. And we're proposing a steel and glass wall at the front and rear and the two-story rear of the building. These are photos of the existing front of the building. This is the existing areaway, which is a bit of a mess and not very safe. And so this line right here represents the street wall and property line. This being the areaway down here that I was saying is dangerous. These are renderings we've done of the rooftop addition where we've kind of chamfered the top front of it to make sure it's far from visible from the street. And then the stucco here will match the front wall of the building, everything else painted black. And this also shows you, this sloped bulkhead. That's the neighbor that's still taller than us, although our bulkhead will go a little taller than they are. This is the front areaway. You can see on this side, the neighbor goes much further out. We won't go anywhere near that depth of a front yard. These are renderings showing that we measured and are planning to copy the existing front guardrail and extend it all the way across for safety, and then widening just this staircase down to our main entry door. These are measurements of the existing. This is the proposed stairwell down. This is the rear of the building. We are going to remove the back 2 levels of wall. This is the extension, which will have the same treatment basically on the entire building, all steel and glass painted black. This is a small roof terrace that will have bluestone to match the rear yard and front yard. And then everything else will remain above. We will chemically remove any paint from the rear brick. I'm just going to skip to our renderings of that to give an idea of what we're talking about. This is an existing section of the building. You'll see back here, we're proposing a rear addition. That window is not on the lot line of our neighbor. That's with the rear addition. I'm going to actually go forward too, just to show it to you with the sightline study. Sorry. These are all photos taken from the roof to show you visibility from the front and the rear, and a key to help you identify. Over here, we mocked up the entire front wall, and I stood up as high as I could, actually higher than the front facade, with Lacey there to photograph that you cannot see this at all from the streets, even as far as the avenues. These are mapped out photographs that we did of the surrounding area to show you that there's really nothing to show you, that would be it, but you can't see the mock-up. And then I have details that I'm happy to review as anybody asks of the construction at the rear. We plan to reuse brick to construct the new addition. These are our typical window details, and we measured the existing brick mold, and we'll match that as well. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Chu.
You had mentioned that the windows are steel, that like the Hope's thermally broken system that you're using.
Yeah.
So they're actually steel windows.
Steel, yep,
Okay.
thermally broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Right, let's see if we have any public testimony. I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I will turn it over to Stephen to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you. Anyone joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function, after which I will promote you to panelist and you can unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Nuha Ansari.
Chair Carroll, Honourable Commissioners, Friends Preservation Committee commends, this is Nuhan, sorry, speaking on behalf of Friends Side. Friends' Preservation Committee commends the applicants for their proposal to restore the facade of this handsome row house and replace the windows in kind. We have no objections to the proposed modifications to the areaway, which are sensitive in design and will preserve historic materials where possible. Friends can approve the rooftop addition and stair bulkhead, which are sufficiently set back and not visible from the public way. We do, however, urge the applicants to construct a mock-up of the proposed rooftop construction to ensure that the new addition would in fact not be visible from street level. And finally, we consider the extension of the basement and first floor and the new steel and glass window system at the rear facade to be well considered and appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker will be Lucy Levine.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds the proposed additions to be largely appropriate. However, we believe the rooftop bulkhead is too large and that the applicant should find a way to further reduce its visibility. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Seeing no other participants on Zoom, I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 8 recommends approval.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'd like to ask if you'd like to respond to the comments, and one comment was about the visibility of the bulkhead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm known to do, I've presented many times. I respect every landmark rule that I can, and I have made the bulkhead as small as humanly possible with the minimum ceiling heights, the slope, trying to get it out of the way. Lacey was with us. It's definitely invisible from the street. And even as we construct, we make a promise that we're going to monitor that all the way through and make adjustments as needed to make sure it's completely invisible. Remember, also, it's set back almost 12 feet from the front facade. So I think it gets confused in an elevation for looking closer to that street facade, but it's very far back.
Great, thank you. Any other final questions, commissioners? All right, let's make a motion to close the hearing. So Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed. And this is an application for a rooftop and rear yard addition, both of which are not visible, but we're reviewing them for the cumulative effect. Staff can't approve 2 additions at one time. So it's a 1-story rear yard addition that doesn't project out as deeply as other additions. And then it is a 1-story rooftop addition set back from the front and the rear with a sloped bulkhead on top. And the proposal also includes modifying the areaway to pull it out to the property line and change the entrance sequence into the building. All right, Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this last one?
Yeah, I think this is fine. I think it's been thoughtfully done. It isn't visible. And the rear yard addition is small and 1-story, and they're maintaining the existing masonry. So, and then the changes in the front to the areaway also make sense.
All right, Vice Chair Bland.
Agreed. You know, we see a lot of the things that we wish for when we see rooftop additions. It's set back from the front enough so that it's not visible at all. It's set back from the rear so that the rear facade can still read as a separate entity. The 7 foot 8 inches or whatever it is, rear yard extension is minimal. and the front reorganization, widening the stair, eliminating the other one, seems all very sensible and appropriate.
Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, the rear yard addition is modest, and I think the rooftop addition is nicely designed to minimize its visibility, and they, you know, in general, it's very nice design. I think very approvable.
All right, Commissioner Lutfi.
I think this is a very thoughtful, understated, and attractive design. The areaway, I think the work in the areaway makes a lot of sense. And on the rear, I just feel like everything's been done, modestly. You know, the incursion into the backyard, the openings are openings we normally approve in the rear, and I appreciate that they're reusing the brick. And at the top, that they are making sure that the addition is not visible. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, I would be, with my fellow commissioners here. It looks like everything being proposed has been addressed in a sensitive nature. I think the only reason there was some hesitation on the rooftop is because you didn't provide some pictures up and down the street. But I believe you completely that with the fact that the house is also set back from the neighboring property, that you're kind of in a valley up in there. So I think this is appropriate. I have just one minor comment. It's not a big deal, but I was looking at your rendering. You should probably put a base at the bottom. A base at the bottom of that floor. That's it. But otherwise, very appropriate.
All right, great. And just on the visibility, I believe a mock-up was constructed, and so that's been investigated by the staff.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very modest proposal. It's completely appropriate.
And Commissioner Goldblum.
I agree. Appropriate.
All right, we have a consensus. Commissioner Ginsburg.
With regards to LPC 25-06392, 156 East 71st Street, Upper East Side Historic District, an Italianate style row house designed by W. O'Gorman and built in 1871. Application is to construct a rooftop and rear yard addition and modify the areaway. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Upper East Side Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that there are a variety of areaways and entrance conditions within the streetscape. Therefore, the enlargement of the areaway will be in keeping with this range of conditions and will not diminish the relationship of the building to other buildings on the block. That the modified areaway featuring a brown finished stucco retaining wall and steps and black finished ironwork matching the design of the existing ironwork will be in keeping with materials and finishes found at other areaways within the historic district. That the proposed rear yard and rooftop additions will not be visible from public thoroughfares. That the proposed one-story rear yard addition project projects less into the rear yard and is shorter than other additions on the block, and therefore will not diminish the central green space or overwhelm the buildings. That the design and materiality of the rear yard addition featuring brick cladding, a black finished multi-light window and door assembly, and a cast stone lintel would be in keeping with the residential scale and character of other rear facades. That the proposed rooftop addition featuring a stair bulkhead on the roof of the addition will be set back from the front and rear facades, thereby maintaining a sense of the building's original massing. That the materiality of the rooftop addition and bulkhead featuring brown finished stucco cladding and black finished windows will be in keeping with other rooftop additions in this historic district. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building, streetscape, or the Upper East Side Historic District.
All right, and Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Mark.
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
As I cast my affirmative vote, I want to note for this applicant that you have the rare distinction, historic distinction of being the last presenter in this historic space. Yes, I vote yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Commissioner Chu. Aye.
Aye.
Forgetting, you say aye?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum. Aye. Commissioner Lutfi, Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes and our tenure here as ending.
Yes. All right, so that's approved. Thank you. And this is the last hearing we'll be holding in this hearing room. We will have a public hearing next Tuesday, April 8th, in our new location at 253 Broadway on the second floor. And we'll see everybody there.